Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. This is a surprise, spur of the moment stream. This is my buddy Mike. Mike and I think we were born next door to each other, pretty much. Yeah. And Mike's
Yes, since we were like one and less than one.
right. Yeah.
Had I known we were doing this tonight, I would have shaved. I feel a little bit.
Yeah, me too. I would.
Homeless.
Hey, Zach Tan already with the blessing. So Mike is just to stop. Don't beat around the bush. Mike is making his own comic on Kickstarter. Marshall Strong. We'll talk about that campaign in a second. But so again, Mike, I've known him since kindergarten, before kindergarten, and anybody who watches my channel knows that I sooner or later I talk about villains and vigilantes. And Mike, you were the one. Do you remember? You were the one that introduced me to villains and vigilantes.
Oh yeah, no, I remember. It was interesting. I was so excited to share it, and then little did I know that you would. I think in the beginning I may have run like the first couple of games, and I think that was it. After that, your natural instinct took over to create a world.
I remember sitting at my kitchen table, and you were teaching me how to be a GM. You don't say dungeon master, you say right. Game master in Village Vigilante. And it's math heavy, and there's a lot of like little at first. If you used to Dungeons Dragons, I think Village Vigilantes, the rules are a little hard to grasp. Now they're second nature to me, but and I was just like, I don't understand this, so we don't need this. And you're just like, John, that's like super important. I'm like, I don't understand. We don't need this. You're like, no, you got to do that. I was like,
and we never played with miniatures or anything or measured distance. It was largely of the mind,
right? Like, yeah, we very like a few people would be like, could you make a map of where we are? And I'd be like, scribble a circle, put an X. You're right there. Does that help? No, right. That's the best you're gonna get.
Yeah, I think we played with some guys once with miniatures, and it didn't work for me. It's
right. I was just
out of the movie in my head.
That guy who used a actual grid, and he had little miniatures on the board, and right. it made me think that we were playing a bad tactical miniatures game. Now I love tactical miniatures games,
right?
But for a role playing game, I would prefer no miniatures, nothing like. Maybe you could hold up a piece of paper once in a while, but like I moved out here and I got a group of guys that are, they run like a game store. They play Dungeons. Matter of fact, they're playing right now. They're probably live, and they 3D print all the terrain and castles and stuff like that. But I would still rather play Dungeons Dragons. Just me and you telling me like there's no better way than you telling me there's a dragon and a hoard of treasure. Because when you give me something to visualize on, it's like my imagination Bombay doors just opened, and I'm just looking at these plastic things like Mike, like that one adventure where Mike's character was Marshall Strong. I mean, where he punched the bad guy and his head exploded. Like he did so much damage. I still remember that. Like that's like a
right.
movie scene.
Well, and you couldn't if your focus is on miniatures. It's like we would remember it as moving the piece like a chess piece,
right? And then knocking the miniature over.
The character, the metaphysician,
right,
was the one that went through his chest, and you said because from behind he said his heart splattered on the far wall. Right?
and you were like, but I held back. I'm like, yeah, you're still super strong.
He was. I remember he was so powerful, but I didn't realize the power. He wasn't physically powerful.
Right.
It was he could manipulate reality, but he was as vulnerable as any civilian, would be in the game, or more so because he was fairly frail. And I remember I had won his trust, and then I betrayed him and killed him.
I remember when I was in
the world to save the world.
Albuquerque, but my friend had a character called the Ankylosaur, and he was like a guy who turned into a dinosaur ankylosaur guy, and he was like immensely powerful. He was like the Juggernaut. Like he would like roll up into a ball and everything. And he fought this guy called Triumph, and Triumph was like this Roman gladiator guy. He was just this big, but Triumph's ability was that he could absorb kinetic energy. So this was the first. He didn't absorb anything yet. He was waiting for the Ankylosaur to hit him, and Ankylosaur just went up to him, stopped, and like picked him up and slammed him on the ground and like splattered him. He was like, "Oh, I thought he was going to be more," but that's Village of Vigilantes for you. You know, when you could do Superman level strength feats, you know, like Superman. Let's be realistic. Superman would splatter Batman in a real fight. You know, if the writers didn't want Batman to logic, but that's the way it is. So
I still have all my old role playing stuff.
Yeah.
They've like fallen apart. The original, like because I remember buying a new one just that was more intact, and I think they updated the rules a little bit, and but like I still have the original book is all beaten up, and I have the dungeon the game master screen and all the stuff that came with it.
I bought the box set 3 times, and then I bought the rule book like 5 times. I still have like in plastic bags like mint, you know, because I went through them, and every time I break out a new one, I meticulously go through the old one and I write my notes in it because, you know, I'm a maniac and I house ruled a bunch of stuff.
So sometimes when I see the early games from the late 70s, early 80s on eBay, and I'll see, they go like say Gamma World, the original Gamma World, going for a lot of money, and I think to myself, wow, my game's really going up in value, as if I'm not going to die with it, like hopefully when I'm 90,
Right.
but like I'm not selling it. Obviously, I've had it since.
I always go, my comic book collections is going to be so good for my wife and her next boyfriend.
right. I bought a box set of Gamma World. That was the one that had the Metamorphosis Alpha in it. So I just to have, because my old one's so beat up and the box is broke. This was in better shape. But inside, when it was not only the games, but there were loose leaf papers from whoever had played it.
Oh wow, with
their notes, and I felt like, that was a moment in someone's youth that because the games now, like that was early 80s, junior high. The game's like almost 50 years old or whatever, and I'm looking at it. I was like, I could almost hear the voices sitting around the table taking notes, and I was wondering, I hope everyone's still alive. Who had played.
I remember you going to your house too, and you introduced me to Boot Hill.
Oh, Boot Hill! That was
like, cowboy game, and you're like, okay, So I mean, at this point, we played Dungeons & Dragons. We probably played Gamma World. We played V, and now I'm making up a Boot Hill character, and it's like this is a skill, and we're talking about everything like that, and then like, okay, like playing cards, guy accuses me of cheating and kills me.
You roll the dice. Okay, so he fires, and okay, let's check the chart. You're dead.
Yeah. Oh, it's a head wound. Okay, it's a head wound. Okay, critical. Okay.
You can't get through more than like 15 to 20 minutes.
Right. You're like, oh Lord, that only took 45 minutes to make up a character to play for 35 seconds.
I don't think you ever had the same character play a second campaign. They died. It was too realistic, I guess.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh my God, a 12-year-old with a gun, hide. Because it doesn't matter if they're 32 or 12. A gun is a gun.
Yeah, you're gonna die. You have no armor.
Yeah.
You have no force field.
Swords, no powers, And I remember I started doing Village Vigilantes. We did a pirate adventure. I remember your character was like the navigator of the ship, and then we did cowboys. I don't even want to talk about what that adventure was because I want to put that in a comic book. But you had Cole Pershing, and we played
Cole Pershing, right?
Yeah, we played Boot Hill with Village Vigilantes, and it was good because it's comic book rules. So you were a comic book cowboy. You know what I mean? Like even people got shot. They didn't necessarily like. That's the thing about Village Vigilantes. It's designed so it's not lethal.
Right. You get knocked out. You don't have to roll up a new character every.
Right.
And just like comics, if your character gets killed, it's kind of a rare event.
Right.
And you tend to remember it. And they've all just like comic books. They've all been brought back. Didn't you say one time? Was Paul Magnum? when he sacrificed himself, and you're like, he probably could have done it another way.
I was like, why'd you do that?
You're gonna die.
Do that. Like you didn't have to. Yeah, it was time.
Because I think I've had was it Marshall Strong was killed in the against Secret Shogun.
Right.
I think the Spartan was killed at one point.
I forget how he died, but that one I didn't believe. I was like taking your sheet, like, no, Mike, you're doing your math wrong. And I was like,
right.
oh. I felt really bad about that one.
Was it Impossible? Mr. Impossible?
Mr. Impossible got eaten by a dragon, didn't he?
He died, right? I've had a lot of guys die on me. Whatever happened to who was the closer?
We just that story.
That guy had less power than a civilian, like regular character. He was less powerful than a character who had no power.
Every once in a while, for those of you watching, you're supposed to play. It says in the rule book you're supposed to play superheroes. Like anybody who would want to be a villain, you have to wonder why they would even want to play. And like, just don't read that paragraph. So every once in a while, we're going to be a villain, but it was like, you're going to get caught, and it's going to be you're probably never going to use this character again. So. You Paul and Jan, that was our main group for a long time. You were three brothers. You were like three Hong Kong hitmen. It was the closer, the ringer, and the enforcer. You remember?
Right. That was the one where we planned for like literally like 25 minutes.
Yeah, they were planning forever, and then your character had the impatience, right?
Right. Well, he had what was it called?
Low impulse control.
Low impulse control. So you made me roll to see if. Because as the planning to make our assault was taking forever to sneak into the compound, after all that planning, I failed the saving throw, and he's just screaming and running into the.
Yeah, you Leroy Jenkins did it, as the kids would say.
And I don't remember what the plan was. Remember, we were writing it out like as if we were planning an assault on.
I was like, "Come on, it's just
just go." And
you guys, for comic book people, this was the equivalent of like the Fancy Dan in Montana. You remember the Spider-Man fought the Fancy Dan with the knife. Like you guys weren't even the big wig guys,
Right, yeah. We were all pretty like. I think you could all have kind of like no one had any real. Maybe they had like just. On the skill chart,
I think everybody had one power.
Right, because I remember my guy couldn't do much other than shoot people. Right, because one needed a gun just like anyone who didn't have
was like super strong. The ringer, I think, could shoot, and the closer, I think you were like invulnerable or something like that, or I don't know. But that was like the concept is we're gonna have weak supervillains, and you're gonna work for somebody else, and we never finished it. And then I'm trying to think. I think that was your only villain character. But for superhero characters, Marshall Strong, who is in Heroic Tales, and you have your own campaign. We'll talk about that in a minute. And you also have Kid Nemesis, who's in the Marshall Strong comic.
Right.
And then we'll talk about all the characters. But you also had the Spartan was your character.
Spartan is in my comic, and in a upcoming issue, Commando makes a.
Oh wow! I forgot about the Commando.
You gave him the name because you got tired of. I was trying to think of a name and I couldn't think of anything, and you said, it was like, like we only have so much time tonight. He's like, your name is Commando, and I just stuck with it. I was going to try to change it, make it like Meta Commando or. Cosmic Commando.
I did that a lot. I named Magnum, Paul's character.
Right.
If you remember, I made this Spartan. Like you had a whole different concept.
The Spartan was what was his name? He was originally
the Zen
agent. My worst name ever. And then but I came up with when he remember he was knocked unconscious, and when he came back,
right.
That was because I said if I'm not really using the power, well, better for him to have a theme.
Right.
And the theme was he believes he's from ancient Greece and he can only use his power to create things that would have existed that the Spartans would have had.
Yeah, and I'll never forget you did a solo adventure, and Spartan went and killed all these aliens, and it was like John Wick, like that was like the adventure that you just like gotta, because some powers are kind of hard to conceptualize, and I think and you would just like. So he's like Green Lantern. He could, but it's like bronze energy, and like you can make spears and simple.
Right. I think because the energy was bronze colored, that the Spartans were bronze
age, yeah,
bronze armor. So his armor, his weapons, and then remember he would make a giant shield and drop it on people. I used that a few times.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna get because I have a trading card with him on it. I didn't use it yet, but I'm going to bring up the image of because I love this character. He shows up in Heroic Tales 2 in a cameo, and we got a lot to talk about. But I'm.
Oh no! By the way, it's very cool seeing their cameos in your book, which look great. By the way, the art.
Oh, tell them about my cameo in issue 1 of your book.
Oh, well, the Agent Bua, the Sergeant Bua.
Yeah.
that get ready because that's coming up. That's actually.
Oh, that didn't happen yet?
No, but that's the issue that's coming out now.
Oh, cool. So yeah, I don't want to spoil it then.
It's like Private Bua, and then later on we'll have a Sergeant Bua. That makes an appearance. He's your twin brother.
There's a reason why I needed a twin brother. But your artist didn't realize that I was important. So he made an executive decision to kill me.
Not to give anything away, but your time in the book is short and brutal.
Right. It's funny. So I'm trying to get I'm trying to find your characters. So I might as well bring up the characters that we both know that you mentioned. So this is a card. I don't think I made this card yet, but I made a bunch of cards. So definitely by Patriarch number 3 is going to have the whole team in it. It's going to have I don't want to spoil it, but it's a mix of two of our best adventures. So this is Magnum. This is Paul, my friend Paul. He's a mix between like the Hulk and Magneto. His civilian name is Christian Darber, and he does so much damage that he has to borrow everybody's dice whenever he attacks. And I think it was you, Mike. You just started saying that's Darber damage. So now Darber damage is just a ridiculous amount of damage. That's like, oh, you do Darber damage. It's like there's no defense against that. There's just not even enough dice.
In my book, which was kind of like Earth 2 in a sense for these characters.
No. Well, it so far the continuity is fine. It's unless you have a problem with it, but
no. Well, Magnum's look is a little different. I forgot he had the.
Well, it's also, if you remember, you put it at 2012. Mine's 2025. You can have different costumes.
Right. That's true. That's a good point. He's
the Patriot's gonna have a different costume.
I try to keep the personality the same. If you remember how Paul
kill everything. So this is Spartan now in 2025.
Right.
He looks different in your comic, but that's 10 years ago.
He evolved.
your comic is set 10 years ago, but so this is the part now. Yeah, and he has the power like Green Lantern, but he's limited to stuff that Spartans would understand. So he has spears, shields, armor, like levers and stuff like that too. But he couldn't make airplanes or televisions and stuff. So I love this character, and he can regenerate. He's just like the ultimate warrior. So other characters that come from yours. Here's Colonel Strong.
Nice, yeah.
And it's funny, every time Renzo draws him, he puts a matchstick in his mouth.
Right. It makes him a little bit more mean looking. A little.
Yeah, but there you go. There's Marshall Strong. You want to tell people what Marshall Strong could do?
Well, so in the my comic universe, Marshall Strong is the leader of Apex, which his team, which was part of the government program to create the first metahumans. The military wants to create an army of superhuman soldiers. The first round of experiments, and they're basically using alien technology. And the first round of experiments is a disaster where people get powers, but they're also it warps their mind, so they end up basically metahuman psychopaths instead of metahuman heroes. And then they realize that the determining factor is the mentality of the individual, not just whether they were smart or strong or athletic, but it exaggerates. So if someone is greedy or cruel, that will be exaggerated by the experiment, and they'll probably come out as a even more cruel, powered, meta powered individual. Colonel Strong was a psychiatrist in the Air Force who was brought into the experiments to screen the candidates so they could avoid these damaged personalities that had made the first round of experiments go awry. So, and then he's chosen to be actually part of it. And he basically enhances what you already have. So he was a real smart guy. So he has heightened intelligence. And, he was military. So that he has, heightened accuracy with his weapons. He has heightened fighting skills, heightened agility.
Right.
He's not on the level of Magnum, but he has a degree of heightened strength.
Right. He's like the Captain America and Nick Fury mix is the way I describe him.
Right. And the last issue, issue number 2, dealt with taking a look back at the experiments and his Marshall being brought into the team and being shown the disastrous results of the first round of experiments, and then them going through he goes through the metahuman process and gains his powers, and they have one brief first mission where they're trying to round up metahumans from the first round of experiments that have gone rogue, and in the first issue it was actually a flashback to it takes place right in the middle of an ongoing mission of theirs where they meet the secret Shogun, which doesn't end well for Magnum, and it ends with him basically believed to be dead, kind of in a coma. And they're keeping alien technology. They have him in a kind of a hyperbaric chamber type thing to keep him alive. And now issue number 3 is Marshall's glorious return.
That was a great adventure, man. I felt bad. Like Mike's comic is pretty much crib notes of like 20 years of playing.
Right.
And it's funny because Mike said, I'm going to make a comic based on our adventures. And then I guess you went and did a silly thing. You got married, you had kids, you bought a house, you know what I mean? So I was like, I guess Mike's not making I'm going to make a comic. And it turned out we were both like campaigning almost at the same time,
right.
that we were doing it.
I had done all these books. I was working with Elton Tomasi, who excellent artist from Brazil. You can see, by the way, in this cover here, what I like about this cover is that he drew Magnum as Paul. Like if you look at that,
right,
that's usually a little look kind of like a bigger jaw and a bigger face. But I had said I had wanted him to make him look a little like Paul, just for as a little nod to Paul, developing the character. But he went. The picture I sent him, he used that exactly. I thought it was going to have elements of Paul, but he drew Paul,
right,
or Paul a little younger,
right. Yeah, so so in 2025 when we meet Magnum and Mice, it is 10 years of bulk or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's Marshall Strong.
Yeah, I like the perspective on that picture. Like they're going down with the gun in the foreground, and him back. Elton has done some, real nice work, and he's done all these issues for me, but they essentially sat unpublished on ice because I didn't really know how to take these finished pages and then make them, print ready and, get them published and do a Kickstarter and all that.
It's a lot of work.
Like I said, that was when I was getting married and having kids, and I didn't have the time I was overwhelmed by the thought of trying to learn how to do it. And that's when Dan Sen from Thunder Zone and Argo Comics offered to help me, get them published. Dan's been doing it forever, and he knows the indie publishing like the back of his hand. I mean, he's probably been doing it pretty much as long as anybody who's in the indie publishing.
Right. I think
because he goes back decades. I think
he said 22 years or something like that. He's been
doing. Yeah. It's amazing. So it's been very helpful for me because
and the comics look great too. Issue 1, these are perfect comics as far as they look, they feel like. I don't know who prints them, but he does a great job.
Yeah, he uses Kablam printing.
That's right.
And they have the website Indie Planet where they sell also. And yeah, I was very pleased with the look and feel of the books. That they look professional. It's funny, you get a discount, usually a small discount if you use their ad on the back. So all the books have the same Kablam logo on the back. I remember originally I was thinking, I'd like to have this picture or a different picture on the back. And then when I realized that what it costs to get a comic book drawn, inked, colored,
right.
And I was like, I'll take that discount, and I'm proud. Plus, Kablam does such a good job. I'm happy to have them on, their ad on my comic because they've been really great, and they do the fulfillment, that from their printing place.
Oh, they do it. Oh man, fulfillment's rough. That's
right. So I've never known the pain of having to do the fulfillment end of it, because that does seem like really laborious. That seems like
I just assumed Dan did. I just assumed Dan did it. I didn't know.
They do it through the printer. Kablam does it themselves, and they mail it out in the what's the special mail?
Yeah, the Gemini mailers. Yeah, the
Gemini mailer. So everyone gets their books in mint condition, and they look great.
Perfect. Yeah.
I did notice. I was used to looking at the pages for so many years on the screen because I had the file of the pages, and when you print them, no matter who you use, it looks a little darker.
Right.
So the first time it threw me off because in issue 2, a lot of it takes place in the underground laboratories of Apex where they're doing experiments. So everything was kind of dark already. So I was worried that the page would look so dark. But
you're looking through your computer, there's light coming through the screen and everything. So everything, it's always going to be a little darker.
But I think I adjusted to it quickly once I saw that it's easy to read, and it's the printing looks sharp and look great.
Yeah, Kablam does good work. Is this Kid Nemesis?
No, that's Deacon Hammer.
Oh, Deacon Hammer, another character. Yeah,
right. Deacon Hammer's actually in issue 2 is the flashback, and I forget Kid Nemesis wasn't on the team yet.
Okay.
So You can
It's another. Oh,
and
no.
then look at this. If you lower that down just a little bit, you can see the other way. If you see, we have Kid Nemesis in the front.
Right.
We have Magnum. We have Marshall Strong, and we have the Spartan. But there's the Oni, Startide in the back, and Glare. Jerry's character.
Did you let Jerry know that?
I don't know. It was cool to tell him, like, it was like, we're putting the team back together. The characters, they kind of make a cameo in a larger scene that's in the book. Not to give anything away, but it was when Elton drew the cover. I told him I wanted to include, the guys from our gaming session, so like everybody's like represented here, and he did a great job on Glare. Like Glare looks like kick ass, and that's almost like Jerry described it as like the Hulkbuster version of Glare, a little more beefed up.
Glare, he had a suit of golden armor, and it manipulated light.
Right.
Yeah, so he called himself Glare. Yeah. So that at first I was like, is that Glare? That's too beefy.
Yeah, that's like I said, this would be like the heavy duty Hulkbuster version of Glare, because he's also had him drawn more sleek, a little more sleek design. But the Oni appears in a cameo in this, but the issues after this are already done, and the Oni has a big part.
Cool.
In it, and as well as Commando in it.
The only thing that stinks about being the game master is I don't have any characters in this.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, we have to. I know you had didn't you have like the character, the Acrobat or something like that? We never got to use, or something. A character you rolled up and then
probably never used.
Right. I think it was sitting in a folder.
I had the Silent Fury, the martial artist that couldn't speak.
Right.
I
remember the name.
Right. Don't you remember he used weakness detection to find the weakest link in the chain? And yeah. But I want to talk about Glare for a second. This Glare fought. There was a bad guy called Ex Nihilo, and he had like the power to like create this like absolute black hole of nothingness. And Glare was like, the only thing that can stop absolute darkness is absolute light. And he was moving to Portland. We lived in New York. So he was going out in a blaze of glory. He he was just like doing everything he could. He jumped into the middle of this black hole and used all of his, and I was like, screw the rules. This is just epic.
Right.
He defeated like a super powerful bad guy, and that was the end of his character. And then I think like he got delayed or something like that. He ended up staying another 6 months. So we rolled up another character, and then I told him, I said, "You're bad. He's in the ultimate dimension." And Glare be Gloom, and he was like, so he became Dr. Gloom, and I played him as the game master, Doctor. And then when you guys realized who it was, Jerry took over the character because it was his character. We did it just to trick you guys, and he got so into it. He was doing the whole maniacal bad guy. I see that kind of stuff I love about the role-playing games,
Yeah, we had a real good group of guys when we were doing the regular sessions, that it was everyone was like really stuck to the character, like
right.
They really role played, the character, and stuck to the personality of the character, and kind of, got into it, I remember one time your brother came over and he's like, I'm just here to watch. And I was like, I can't role play with someone.
Yeah. Role playing is like sex. It's not good when other people are watching. You all got to participate.
Right. Then it was like, now instead of just everyone knows the character, instead of just getting into the character, you feel like, boy, I must look like a real weirdo.
Right.
So they just toned everything down,
The female Startide, that was played by this guy Eric. I still don't remember. I think he found out about us through the message board, so we didn't know Eric. He just showed up, and he looked exactly like Silent Bob, and he would show up, and he always played females.
Right, yeah, and he designed that character. That was a great design he came up with. And in I think through a little miscommunication, she kind of in my world was an amalgam of her regular self, her regular powers, and the teleporter from your universe.
Okay.
Because I think, sometimes that's when you're when you're communicating back and forth with the artist, he had her teleport, and only later on I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, Startide can't teleport. Right. Well, she can now. But it's fine because as a plot device, it doesn't matter if I didn't need the two separate characters.
And then Eric just disappeared.
Right? Yeah. I remember he was working for that company that provided like helium. Remember?
Yeah, something like
that. It was like a balloon company. Right. I thought it was an interesting.
And they just stopped answering the phone. So he was like the first person to just drop off the face of the earth. We didn't.
Yeah. I guess it's amazing that people can even, as life gets more complicated, etc. You don't know if.
Yeah, answer the phone and say I'm not interested anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You could
immediately. I'm just like, did he die?
Right. Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. And then Kid Nemesis, the one in the front here with the blue aura on the fist. That was. I remember we would play, and then like Marshall Strong got to be like 15th level, and it was like everybody's like, let's make new characters, like start all over again. And so Kid Nemesis
was more of a challenge because you're not nearly as powerful.
Right. And I love the concept. You want to talk about Kid Nemesis for a second?
Yeah. Kid Nemesis, I guess first and foremost, like his character is a martial artist. So that's the whole motif is, he's always doing martial arts, and he has a kind of that, the red sash, like that kung fu type of look. But the gauntlets he's wearing can basically transmute. So like he can make them either. I used to make them like, remember, like white phosphorus,
right?
Or he can make them extreme cold. So sometimes in the pictures I have him, one hand like is burning white hot, and the other is like a blue cold. Where he can and the energy of the gauntlet is kind of like the same alien energy that powered the metahuman process and the.
Do you remember where he got the gauntlets?
Well, in your game, it's from his father.
Right, his father was a supervillain.
Right, and
Dr. Nemesis, and
his father was kind of out of the picture. And one day he kind of left them to him, and he didn't open them up for a while. Like his father was kind of like one day when you reach 18 or whatever, open this. What was great in issue 1. Originally, I had Kid Nemesis in the story, but I didn't have. Like I said, the story almost kind of starts in the middle, like a Tarantino movie,
right?
Where it's a little out of sequence, and it was the writer of the U.S. assassin. What's his name?
Mark Bolton.
Well, yeah, Mark Bolton. He had as one of the reward tiers on one of his campaigns that he's done professional writing for DC, etc., and that he would review your script. And I said, I'd like to have like a second set of eyes on my script and have find out what someone who's worked professionally in the industry thinks of it. And he did a great review for me, and then we had a chat online, a video chat, and he went over some of the things. And one of the things he suggested, he said, you have these guys fighting for their lives against the secret shogun. Why don't you include a flashback to let us know who they are? Like, we don't have a stake in the fighting for their lives, but the reader
beginning, so we know
isn't connected to them yet. So that they had a flashback that has to do with when they meet Kid Nemesis, And it's funny, when I was preparing the third issue for print, I went through the other two issues I wanted to see the continuity, see how the story was unfolding, with the impression I got reading 1, 2, and 3 together. And I was so glad that I had added that, he said you might even be able to do it in just like a 2-page open panel, but I ended up doing like six or seven extra pages of it, and I felt like it added so much, because you could see now the bond between characters, like where in a sense when they discover him, they're also coming to his rescue, because they're under assault, where people want those gauntlets, because the gauntlets are the alien technology that
I love this, because in Villain Vigilantes, he has the power of weakness detection.
Right.
So he would square off against you, figure out what your weakness is, and then the gauntlets, he's like, oh, his weakness is fire. So, flame on his hands or whatever. And then, do you remember that when you fought your father, Kid Nemesis fought Doctor?
Right. I think I wrote that. It's funny. I think on your forum, on the V&V forum, RIP, right? That's gone now.
Yeah.
I think I had written up his encounter with his father. Like he's got like the mixed emotions about his father and his.
I was like, now we can conquer the world together. And he's like,
right. His father wanted to recruit him, and his father had a team, right? His father had with his own villainous team,
right?
But it was like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Join us, yeah.
Never like you.
Yeah, all this stuff is I just think it's so fun. Like I remember like Startide had a fight in space near Pluto. Since that character could survive in space, it's Magnum just like taking off his belt and strangling somebody. You remember that? And do you remember Marshall Strong got sent back into the past and and lived a whole life as like a space barbarian, conquer the world. Yeah, conquer the world. What will your tax policy be? They might like living under Dr. Nemesis.
I remember one of the moments I remember is when Marshall Strong when they were in the alien world, and Marshall Strong didn't realize that this creature is like basically poisoned and got him hallucinating, and he thinks we did the whole role play of the entire fight. We're battling these aliens, and we're hoping for good rolls. We're spending karma to improve our rolls to win this fight. We're doing whatever it takes. We're doing multiple attacks, but the whole time he's actually like buried in the ground,
dying. He's dying.
Yeah, he wasn't fighting anybody.
It was an alien creature. It was inspired by that
the Alan Moore one.
The Alan Moore story. So it was like an alien lizard or something like that was like boring into his mind, and feeding him with illusions to keep him satiated as he was devouring his spirit or something.
It totally faked me out, because we fought for half an hour, right? Thinking, and I'm keeping track of my hit points and power points and stuff. And I remember when you revealed that, that who was it? Captain Empire.
Yeah, Captain Empire was
saved him.
Yeah,
and what's funny? That moment, that twist where it was like, where I realized it was like kind of like in the Matrix, like where you realize, oh, wait a minute, this isn't happening. I've always wanted to have that sequence drawn, like just even if I never just have like a couple of pages of that.
That was a fun fight. The look on your face was worth it.
Right. Cause it totally. I thought I was like, for a second, I was like, did I fail a roll? Yeah, you failed a roll a half hour ago.
The other thing that I'll never forget is this is a long backstory, but Mike's character got literally blasted into 10,000 years into the past and in outer space. And this was like 6 months of real time of like, basically you were, instead of Marshall Strong, you were the Mighty Mars. They mistranslated your name. And the Mighty Mars, he was like John Carter, Warlord of Mars. You're like, in the loincloth, fighting space aliens, using swords and stuff. And then you got like, basically you founded like a Green Lantern Corps, like this.
Right. That's when they had the rod right there.
They had these star rods. Each rod was quantum linked to a particular star, and yours was connected to Earth. But what you didn't know is that the engineers who designed it, they didn't know either, but they were flawed. So you had to make a saving throw to activate. So you actually got ejected from a spaceship into that star that you were connected to. And that locked the star, you know what I mean? So you became a part of the star through the rod. But if you failed your saving throw, that star would go nova. So these engineers who thought they were, you know, this was inspired by the Green Lantern Corps. They thought they were making a police force to make peace and unity. But as they activated, stars were going nova throughout the galaxy. And they realized these people were the cause of death for billions of people. But you made your saving throw and you were like, yeah! Because I was just like, you're going to die if you fail the saving throw.
There was one of the things like, usually if you fail, you miss, so you fall unconscious. It's like this, you die and you blow up your...
Right, there's no coming back from this, and the Earth destroys. We literally started a new
I think I passed by like 1 or something
like that, but you were like high fiving, like literal sweat was coming on your face. Yeah, woo! Yeah.
I was like, I have too much invested in this character. I can't start over.
Well, I was like, if he blows up, like I'm such a stickler for continuity. Like,
I know
we have to stop playing. Now we're gonna play Top Secret for 20 years.
Right? Yeah, John has no mercy. If you fail the saving throw, it's over. And you would say, okay, let's rip these up, and you would take out another game, like roll up a new character. You know?
Do you guys like Monopoly?
Right.
But that was a fun. Yeah, I kind of we got to get the team back together. Out of all of us, the original ones, Jimmy's the only one who still comes over. Matter of fact, he messaged me earlier. He came over and he dropped off a big, like 3 boxes of role playing books. Gamma World, Rifts and stuff. He's like, I don't need this anymore. So and then I called up a couple of guys and we all picked through it and took it. But he found his stuff and he's going through all of his old character sheets and he's like, we got to play again. We never finished this story. We never finished this story.
Yeah, Jimmy was the most dedicated to he played every character differently.
Right.
He wouldn't do what was in his best interest. He would do what that character would do. You know, that he was really like a method actor. By the way, this is I love this cover. I love those 1940s bondage covers. You know, the Golden Age comics where there's always an evil scientist,
right?
A damsel in distress, and the MLJ comics, the Shield. Was it like it later became like it's like Pep Comics?
Yeah,
they had was it Irv Novick? I think was the famous artist who did, and he did all these great like covers where they're in a dungeon, they're in a laboratory. So I had sent some of those to Elton. I said I want to do like a 1940s, evil scientist, damsel in distress cover, and this is what he came up with. I just thought it was so cool.
It is a cool cover. Now, is this like not in the comic, or is this part of the story?
Believe it or not,
okay,
there is something quite similar, a moment in the comic that this doesn't come out of nowhere.
Okay, so are these characters from our campaign, or is this new to your comic? I didn't read these comics, ladies and gentlemen. So I read 1 and 2, but 3 I didn't.
Right, 3 isn't out yet. feel free to go to Kickstarter and
support it now.
get
Yeah.
a copy. Only
Hey, can you get
$5.
Can you get issues 1 and 2 also?
What's that?
Could you get a? Is there a catch-up tier? You can get 1 and 2.
Yeah, Dan put on there. You know, what happened was he noticed when they offered the back issues, because there's like, I'm part of there's pros and cons to being part of the group that releases. The the plus side is that the other people bring people to the page too.
Right.
The downside is that if you try to list everyone's back issues,
it
would be like a catalog that no one's going to take the time. So, but what he put on as an add-on, what he put on the page was any back issue. You can click on that and you can tell him what back issue you want to get.
Oh, that's good. So
Marshall Strong 1 and 2,
3, and then get the back issues of 1 and 2.
Right.
Because these are part of Heroic Tales and Patriarch stories. This is just 10 years earlier, right?
Right. So, I love this issue. I love I had originally had a different cover that was also a similar 1940s bondage type cover, but the way it was drawn, it would have precluded it would cover up the logo and the all the information, so it would make a better, what do they call that, like a virgin cover that has no header and no price and no because it was done. So we're probably going to use that as a pinup.
Okay.
So that's another bondage type cover, which I just like that old fashioned. Like as a kid, I didn't think of it as a bondage cover. I just thought of it as heroic rescue.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't realize like that bondage was a thing in my youthful innocence, But I love the job he did on all the covers, and I just thought this was cool. And Alan Faria, the colorist, I thought did a great job. And he put that spotlight on them, which I think works really.
I'm trying to ask, but I don't want to ruin it. But I want to know who's the girl and who's the demented doctor. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, guess what?
What?
I'm up to issue 6, and this scenario will have implications that play out in issue 5 and 6.
Yeah, exactly. Rescue is part of being a hero. Why do people make it weird?
Right. Yeah. To me, if a hero can't save, a pretty woman, at least once in their career.
Right. Every hero worth their salt is gonna fight. So this is some of the interior art then, right?
Correct.
So I just want to show this to show you guys you're not getting bait and switched, right?
Right.
The cover artist is the interior artist, right?
Correct.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Elton does, he does the cover, he does the interior art.
Yeah, Elton's good. Yeah.
And then you can see there's the first glimpse. On that table are the if you go down a little bit on the up a little bit, I guess I should say, on that table, not that far, the last page, one more, and if you just hold it right, you see on that table are there's all kinds of medical
the implements.
He did a lot of detail with that, like weapons of torture.
I'm gonna Zach Tan's asking, yes, the link. So this is the link to the comic. This is Thunder Zone. So Dan Send is a friend of both Mike and I. We went when we were kids. I guess I'll start at the beginning for those of you who don't know. This is the deep lore. This is when Aslan was there when the magic was written. But Mike and I both worked in a comic book store called The Incredible Pulp, and it was the oldest comic book store in Long Island at one point, and it was like a legendary comic book store. We loved it. And then Dan was a frequent customer. Now, Dan went and founded Argo Comics. His flagship comic was Argo 5. And he's been doing it for 22 years. And now I guess he's so successful at it that he launched an imprint and other people bring their comics to him, and he does the publishing and all that stuff. So, but it's more cost effective to do a bunch at once. So this is Marshall Strong, along with these other 5 comics, are the latest one. So you could pick and choose. You could get the ball. You could pick this. You could pick.
Right. There's a tier to get everything, and I think the bonus is that you get how to draw characters from the Thunder Zone, which done by Jerry Hines. He's the artist, and on Supercross, and so that's like the advantage of buying all the books. But if you can also buy them. You can pick and choose. You could buy 1, you could buy 2.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go down and show you everything. I don't want to be mean and not show everything because Dan's a buddy. We've known him since junior high school.
And they all look great. Like Sumo Boy is a first issue. I love that cover. There's the variant cover.
And this is the Eternal.
This is his debut, and Dan's basically he sounds like a character that has basically a density control type of thing.
Oh, is that what he have? Okay.
Yeah, where he can. It sounds like it'd be perfect for someone who wanted to do sumo.
For those of you who don't know, Dan was like a bodybuilding champ.
Yeah,
he was built like no other way to describe him.
Yeah, he had a professional bodybuilding card too. Like he earned his pro card, and he still works out like a lunatic.
Yeah, so he does a lot of comics with martial arts, boxing, and wrestling and everything. Very physical. I wouldn't fight him. I'll just leave it at that. I wouldn't fight him. And this is Weirdo.
This is issue number 1 was on the last campaign. This is issue number 2. He's a new character that's wonderfully strange, and that was a great first issue.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Creeper.
Right. I could see that.
Yes, the previous Marshall Strong issue ended. We'll get to that. We'll show you how to do that. Exactly. Stay tuned. But the answer is yes. Yes, you could pick and choose. And then, the art is nice,
Yeah, the guy did a really good job on that.
Great coloring. He has
a lot of, he's worked with a lot of different talent. So he knows a lot of creative people, in the indie scene.
This reminds me of Keith Giffen, like Legion of Super days, not when he became like Abstract days.
Right. Yeah. I missed that. I remember as a kid noticing when Keith Giffen had changed his style.
And I was so disappointed.
Yeah, and I remember noticing it in the Legion, and I felt like I missed that look that he had when he did, the Great Darkness saga. Yeah.
But these are the 3 Marshall Strongs. So this is just 3 variant covers,
right?
And how much are these? How much is each comic?
So you could get the comics as inexpensive as $5 for digital, and $10 for print. So if you want to buy the print copy, it's 10, and if you want the digital copy, it's 5.
And then we saw this, and then there's Big House Blues.
Yeah, that's a mega prison for super powered villains, and the correction officers are themselves super powered.
That's a great idea. Yeah. And here's a very cover. I love that tiger character. That's a great design.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah.
That's been a great story. I have the previous of.
And here's the internal art. Oh, these character designs look pretty good. I think I have to manage my pledge. I gotta get this. I like the other one he had too. They were like UN characters.
And this is Supercross from Jerry Hines. This has been ongoing. It's up to issue 5, and he's in Singapore, and this where this takes place, and it's kind of interesting because they he actually has a glossary of Singapore slang and terms that he uses in it. So I thought that was kind of neat that he does it, and there's a lot of characters in it. It's been.
I really like this cover. I really like this cover. That is great. Yeah, it looks good. and how to draw characters from the Thunderdome. Okay, cool.
Right, and that's got the commando in it, by the way. So if you ever wanted to know how to draw the commando,
if I remember, he was like your version of the Punisher, right?
Well, actually, the Eliminator was my.
Oh, that's right. I'm mixing them up. Okay.
Yeah, the commando was he had I think he got like doubled heightened accuracy and like double where he with the proficiency with all military weapons and he had he doesn't miss much,
Yeah, so yeah, now, you can go down here, you can pick and choose what you want.
Right, and if you click on one and then you go to add-ons, it takes you to add-ons.
Right.
One of the add-ons is any back issue, print, and then any back issue digital. So trying to see if I can.
Yeah, so you could get them a la carte. You could get a bundle of everything.
Right. So let's see.
Yeah. So if you, that's what I did. So I bought one cover and then add-ons. I bought varied covers, and I want to go back. I want to get that Big House Blues. That looked good. The Supercross looked good too. Yeah. So these are all, and it's unless something egregiously changes in issue 3, 4, and 5, these are all in Heroic Tales continuity. You change one name and it drives me nuts, but I think I could live with it.
Which was that?
Mr. Clean into Mr. Clear.
Well, I think I mentioned to you, like, for whatever reason, as if anyone would see my comic, I thought that I could be sued if I used Mr. Clean and he's bald,
right,
and looks like the Mr. Clean from.
Yeah, there's a big secret on him that I don't want to spoil, but Mr. Clean, he's what's the word? Germphobic.
Right.
He literally lives in a sterile environment on the moon, and so everybody calls him Mr. Clean, and he's like, all right, I guess that's my name, because he doesn't want people to know his real identity.
I'm trying to see if because I haven't clicked on the link for, like, let's see, I gotta but I remember Dan had sent us an email, a text saying that he was going to be including a tier that said any back issue, so you can choose like issues 1 and 2. You could get issues 1 and 2 of Marshall Strong, or any back issues of any of the other books. I think he just listed it generically rather than list it, them all together. Let me see. Trying to see if I were to go through as if I was ordering it. Back this project. All right. So then I would go to Marshall Strong, and then the add-ons. Okay, right. The first it takes you right to add-ons, and then the first is list any back issue digital copy is the first add-on. And so if you wanted to get 2 different back issues, you just put a 2 in the back issue in the box, and then when you
send you the survey,
when you receive the survey, you can say, of the 2 back issues, I want Marshall Strong 1 and Marshall Strong 2.
Right.
That's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
More so than, or you could get everything. They did have a tier of like everything they printed, which every now and then you tell one.
I have 2 Marshall Strong stories that I want. If the Patriarch does well, I was thinking like maybe like in the Patriarch backups do the Metal League stories, and have like Colonel Strong and Magnum, but I could tell you the story with Robin the Federal Reserve is issue 3 of the Patriarch, and then if I make it, I'd like to do when you guys went and found Pan, the god Pan.
Right. I remember that.
That's like a horror story, and I want to add a few characters because it was only like you and Jan or something like that. But I want to add a couple of characters.
Jan, yeah, that's
But I thought that was like to me that it's an important story because it set up so much stuff that we still never even did in our game.
Right.
For those of you who don't know, the god Pan is like a horny satyr, and he like impregnated a bunch of women, and like I was like, okay, we're playing in real time, but like 10 years of us playing was only like 6 months in game time. So like there's like a whole army of like little monster metahuman kids that are
right. Running around.
Yeah. I dropped hints of it once in a while. I remember once, just for the hell of it, because I was reading the Walking Dead comics, I put Marshall Strong on a zombie adventure.
Remember the Zomborgs?
Yeah, the Zomborgs. Yeah, there was a mad scientist who was if you remember, the mad scientist was one of the original superheroes that like turned monstrous from the enhancement process because they didn't understand that you had to like he seemed like a good guy, but people could fake who they are. But he was really, and he became a mad scientist and made zombie cyborgs.
Right. They were real powerful, as I recall. Actually.
But do you remember you went to Pennsylvania to contain a zombie epidemic, and the sheriff was your partner, and he got bit, and he's like, "Is this bad?" And you were like, "You're like, I've seen this movie. I see this. You're gonna turn. I don't want to kill him. He's my friend."
I'm no zombie expert, but you're done.
I remember you were on the roof sniping zombies, and he's just like, "It's getting cold, right? It's August, like."
I forgot about that. It takes me back.
You're like, "That's gonna be fine. That's gonna be fine. I'm gonna hold your gun."
I'm gonna put alignment on that. It'll be fine.
There were so many fun stories. I'm trying to remember. Like I remember when we were playing in the Cowboys, you it turned into a Dungeons and Dragons. You like underground fighting like Drow elves and stuff. With it was like Cowboys versus elves. That was a lot of fun.
And we used to always say, we know it's cliche, but wouldn't this look cool as a movie?
Right.
As a comic book.
But I remember them as movies or comics. Like I don't think of the piece of paper and erasers and pencils.
And I guess because you wrote them, but it's amazing. Like you and Jimmy remember all these details. Now this is going back so many years. Like this is when these characters first when you first got back from New Mexico, right?
Right.
How long ago was that now?
I got back just before 9/11. So, literally like I got back in August before 9/11.
Right. And it's like, that's why sometimes people will mention like something that happened. I'm like, I don't remember. And then you and Jimmy will be like, yeah, don't remember. And then you rolled a 6. You're like, how do you remember that? This is 2001.
Yeah, and then Paul, who didn't remember what happened a half hour ago as we were playing,
right.
Like everybody, like, oh my god, that's brilliant! I can't believe that guy. It's him. And Paul's like, who are we talking about? Like, oh, come on, Paul.
I couldn't keep track of the names, like because sometimes you drop hints, like for, for upcoming gaming sessions, you would drop hints about stuff, and then you'd mention like. The scientist or the person like, who's that? And you're like, who's that? That's the whole point of this,
our friend Jimmy, like I said, he loves the role playing. He loves the story aspect of it. And I had like a story that I kept from him literally since like for 20 years. Like Jimmy's character is a magician, and he went back in time, and he met a girl. And they do what mommies and daddies do. And then, but before he went back, so I knew 6 or 7 adventures he was going to go back in time. So he met a guy who was just like, yeah, we there's this parcel of land that you're going to be the caretaker of. And he's like, why? He goes, I'm not really allowed to tell you, but all you got to know is never let any women go to this place. So Jimmy's like, don't let women go there, So he took the deed to this property and filed it away. And then like a year later, game time, we did the adventure. We went back in time. He met this girl. They had a baby. She got attacked by a vampire in the game, and Jimmy had to fight vampires and stuff like that. She got bit while she was pregnant. I was like ripping off blades. So now the baby was like partially vampire, like, you know what I mean? But it never died. So now he is like a bad person. I don't want to, you know what I mean? And they imprisoned him on this property and keep women away. You know what I mean? So, and I remember we were just playing one night, and I was like, oh yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, and I still got that property. I'll go, oh yeah, well, your son is imprisoned. And Jimmy's like, oh, we never did that adventure. I was like, oh, I kept that secret for like 15 years in real life and spoiled it by accident. I was like,
you were playing the long game, but it got too long.
I always, like the whole thing with your character going back in time and then end up Captain Empire, being basically frozen in neutronium and then free. That was all planned, and that took like 5 years in real time. Right. And then the other group of the young guys, I had a whole adventure planned for like 7 years, and then COVID happened, and we never finished it. And I'm still so mad.
Right.
That we never finished it. Oh God! Like I had that all planned. Like we were like,
COVID ruined a lot of things.
Right. Like there was a Dungeons and Dragons campaign and a superhero campaign, and it just so happened that one of the characters, this guy Daniel, he named his superhero like Frank Krogan, and then he named his fantasy character Krogan. And I had already planned that one of there was going to be a bad guy who goes back and forth through dimensions. They fought him as superheroes, and then they fought. He's the same guy, and he's the father of one of them. So, okay, he's Krogan. You know what I mean? So it was going to be he was this master manipulator throughout the dimensions, and they never got the reveal that Krogan.
Like when they cancel a series,
right?
And they don't wrap it up.
Yeah, Firefly needs a second season, guys.
Right, and. Well, Firefly did it with the movie, right? I remember they wrapped up all the loose ends, which was like a gift to the fans because they never do that usually.
Right.
It dies, and then you have to imagine what you think happened or something.
Yeah, like Star Wars. There's only 3 movies, so I always wondered what happened to Luke. Because there's only 3 Star Wars movies in existence, nothing else.
Right. Yeah. No, that's I can relate to that. That's that. And what was the one? And the Acolyte. That was the. That's one that no one seemed to like, right? Was the?
I don't know. I literally, I saw the sequels. I was excited for them, and or the prequels rather. The prequel. I remember I was in New Mexico at the time, and I went with this girl from work, and she brought her sister, and her sister was in a wheelchair. She was born paralyzed. And she was just like into fan fiction, and she, so she just lived sci-fi. That was her thing. Right. So and then she brought a group of friends with her. So we were opening night of what is it called? The Phantom Menace, the first movie,
right.
And they had Star Wars out. They had lightsabers and everything. And I'm like, I'm kind of embarrassed, but I'm kind of into this at the same time. Like they were really into it.
Right.
And I'm watching the movie going, this stinks. Just all, and I didn't want to ruin like this very crippled girl who lives Star Wars.
Right.
And so I was pushing the wheelchair out, and she just goes, man, that sucked. I was like, oh, good. Now I can. And then I went to see I saw the second one, hoping it would be better. And the last, and then the sequels, I was livid. I remember talking with your nephew about what I thought the sequels were going to be. Do you remember that? We were in your basement, and he was the same.
Oh, yeah. And it was Danny. I think I was.
Yeah, and we were like getting excited. I'm like, this is what's going to happen, and this has got to be what happened. And then the sequels came out. I'm like, oh, it had nothing to do with Luke, Han, or
right.
Those characters that I didn't know. I was livid. And then I saw the second. And then I never saw the last one. I'm like, I'm done with Star Wars.
Right.
I never watched Mandalorian. Nothing.
Yeah, I think there's a friend at work who the same thing where he's just like, let me preserve my childhood, these great movies that I was fortunate enough to watch, and just By the way, that same friend got me this. This is a shout out to Dave. He got me this for Christmas. This character is the Eraser from the Mighty Crusaders. Probably one of the worst toy lines to ever come out. Like they just look, they're pretty awful. And he's made a mission of getting all of the characters. He said he's determined to get all of them that they came out, and this was a rather unsuccessful toy launch. And there's the Comet. These are all,
I love the Mighty Crusaders.
Yeah, the toys were kind of like super cheap, like zero articulation type of thing. But yeah, that's the Comet. I remember reading. So it goes to show. It's interesting when you see people much younger than you, like review stuff from your childhood, and you're like, wait a minute, you're 19, you can't comment on what I grew up on. You weren't be born for another 30 years. And I saw, worse than that, I saw a guy doing a review of the MLJ characters, like the Mighty Crusaders characters, and he said that this character, the Comet, was a blatant ripoff of Cyclops. I don't know if you can see his.
Yeah, he's got the visor.
Right. Well, that character came out in the 40s. So like that character came out decades before Cyclops. And he said, the Web was an obvious ripoff of Spider-Man. Again, the Web came out in the 40s. So it's just interesting now that, the internet lets everybody comment
right
on everything. I've seen reviews of stuff that I read as a kid, and that, something like, and I have no patience for someone doing a review of stuff that I experienced 40 years ago,
I like. Do you remember when we were working at the comic store that guy that would just come in, Booksin?
Yeah.
he would just walk into the store, just go Booksin.
Yeah, he would call on the phone. Yeah, hey, Buxton, and we would call, and I would have to go through the list. But he was a great customer because he would buy a stack of comics like this. But
I remember he had Lone Wolf and Cub back. You remember first comics? This was like right. How I got exposed to manga, for the first time. And he's looking at Lone Wolf and Cub, and he's just looking at it, and I'm looking at him look at it, and he just goes, "This guy's just ripping off Frank Miller."
Right.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, all right. And I remember when Jim Shooter got fired, he like backed some little kid into the corner. He's like, Jim Shooter got fired. And Larry was just like, the kid's 12. He just wants to.
He doesn't know who Jim Shooter is.
Yeah.
There was a guy we got so many odd characters that came in to the pulp. And there was a guy, he was a heavyset guy. I seem to remember him like bald, maybe a little hands up. And he had a very peculiar voice. And he would just give you updates from Hollywood without prefacing it.
Yes.
And he would call,
like back you into a corner and like tell you like.
And he would call everyone "dear boy," and he's like, "Dear boy." He would come in as and it's about the movie The Phantom. Was it the character with the purple outfit?
Yeah.
And he goes, Billy Zane has been cast. There's a scene where he jumps from a helicopter onto a moving horse. Talk about your case of hernia. Second, and then he would go into another movie or another thing, and I'm like, "Sir, can you leave? You're frightening the customer." But he would preface everything, "Dear boy."
Yeah.
And his son was in one time, and I'm thinking his son was an adult, and I was thinking, "Oh man, his son must be a little embarrassed that his father is going up to people and he would giving them
unsolicited movie review."
And then, I hadn't really talked to the son, and I'm thinking the son's uncomfortable, but this was me projecting onto the son, because all of a sudden the son picks up a comic and goes, "He died! Dad, look at this!" He was nuttier than the father. So like, but
back in the 90s, comic people were weirdos. That's why we were into comics,
That was par for the course. We had most of the customers were very nice and normal, just normal, good-natured guys who like comics are maybe a little nerdy in a good way. And then we would have like that 10% that were just nuts.
Yeah.
Tom, when he would open, there was a guy who was really off, and he would get to the store early and just wait outside for Tom to open up. So Tom would be across the street, like near Burger King, hiding, see if he could wait him out. The guy would leave.
Oh, everybody was autistic, yeah. But we didn't have autistic then. We just were weirdos, right?
There was a guy who, they might have been definitely on the spectrum or worse.
But we didn't know that back then. You know,
right.
You just got smacked in the head by your dad. You know,
there was a guy who he would constantly ask me about older books, and he would have me. I would go up on like a ladder and look at books that we had in storage, and he was, can you check that? And I had no idea. This guy didn't have a dime. and he was heavyset, and he would sweat like crazy, and he would constantly interrupt himself by saying, "It's hot in here," and he would be like, "Yeah, you have any Wonder Woman? I see that box up there that says Wonder Woman. Usually it would be more of the same of what we had." And so I could check. He's like, "Yeah, good job." Hot in here, right? And then and meanwhile, I would be the one carrying boxes down, and he's going through them. And it took me a while to figure out this guy's not buying anything.
Right.
But he never bought a thing. And then I saw him years later, and I felt bad. He was on Oceanside. He was outside a pizza place, and they were like chasing him away. And they were like, that guy again. I guess since the comic book store closed, he had nowhere to go, you know, like.
Yeah, it was just like a ritual over there. A bunch of kids would leave their bicycles in front of the comic book store, come out, find their bicycles stolen.
Right.
Oh man, my bike. Yeah. A Bronze Age kid says, "Happy to be one of the completely well-adjusted, mentally sound clients of the pulp." Who is this? Who's Bronze Age kid? Is this Cameron? I'm trying to think who else went to the pulp that watches my channel. It's got to be Cam.
Oh, it's got to be Cam. I see that Cam recently picked up Conan #1.
Yeah. So if
I noticed that had that Conan #1 icon. Is that you, Cam?
Yeah. Cam was another one of us that, you know, Cam and Dan went to a different school. Oh, busted. Okay, so it's Cam. Cam escaped and moved out of New York, lives in the free state of Florida.
Right. And like myself, Cam has a new hobby. It's called old comic books. Like, you know, he it's like we now, I guess nothing quite captures, you know, like the books of yesterday, you know. There's still some good stuff coming out, but like I feel as I get older, like a nostalgia for.
Yeah, like I just picked up, like, you know, Steranko's Chandler. You know what I mean? I've been hearing about this for 30, 40 years. You know, I found a copy for like $12. You know what I mean? So I'm reading Miss Tree right now.
You know, I've been getting a lot of old characters drawn, like 1940s characters and stuff, and artist Ken Landgraf. He was the first artist I ever met at the Rockville Center show in junior high. Remember they used to have the Rockville Center show, and
that's where I met Bill Willingham.
Right, and he was the first artist, and he was very nice. He gave my friend Steve pointers. He brought in one of his drawings, and he gave him pointers on how to draw. I told Ken he should be on your show. Ken was had worked at Marvel when, like, all these Hall of Fame names were there, and you know he has stories about they were real characters back then. These guys. I think it was Neil Adams. He was talking about how mean he was to, you know, aspiring artists, and you know it was very interesting to hear his take and how he.
Well, I heard that they were brutal to, like, okay, like they were nice to fans, but you want to be an artist, they didn't.
They were unforgiving.
But the thing is, you don't get better at when people just blow you. You know.
Right. It was all useful, as Ken said. He had been in the military, you know, in Vietnam, so he was a little bit more used to someone yelling in his face than, you know, some of the more sensitive artists that had never experienced anything like that. So he gave a really interesting talk at a convention I went to. But it was interesting. He showed me recently, I had asked him to draw Steel Sterling, which is an MLJ character from the 1940s. So he was looking at some of this, you know, the source material. and he found a picture of Steel Sterling, and then later on saw a picture of Captain America drawn by Steranko in the exact pose as Steel Sterling. And it was interesting because it was early Steranko, right? So he was kind of like, he was showing me how everyone was influenced by everyone.
Right.
And that as a professional, you also needed to save time, because you're not just doing this because you're an artiste. You're doing this to.
It's a business. We got to hit that deadline.
And they, shortcuts were. It wasn't like some violation of ethics. It was a tool that they all used.
What didn't Wally Wood say? Don't draw what you could trace. Don't trace what you can photocopy, and don't photocopy what you can swipe or something like.
Right.
I'm getting stuff, but
he had mentioned that that the idea is we're trying to make a living here. We all have our own styles, but we got to get these out the door.
I said to one of the artists that I'm working on today, and forgive me if you're watching this, you probably are. But he was like, I want to change this. I was like, no. It's done. It's colored already. Let's move on. Make another page.
Right.
Because I could understand. I'm just a writer, and every time I go back to a script, I tool with it. But once if you're my artist, Mike, and I send you my script, I don't tool with it anymore unless the artist says there's something egregious, really wrong. But because. What do they say? The perfect is the enemy of the good, or something like that.
Yeah. Dan Sen had said, when you're in the game this long, if you wait for everything to be absolutely conditions to be perfect, for everything to be flawless, you'll never get anything out.
Right.
And sometimes, getting it done and imperfect. Sometimes being imperfect, you stumble on something that you didn't think of. By the way, look at this. This is I just got from Ken Landgraf.
Oh, cool.
And look at that Asgard in the background.
Yeah, that's
that was very very, what's it called? Jack Kirby.
Right.
Like that. It made me feel nostalgic to see that, because I was like, oh, that's right. That's how they used to draw.
Right.
Like Asgard in the background, like it was this futuristic.
It was like a spaceship.
Right. Now, was that his own take? Because obviously that's not from the original lore. That's his. That was
the original first, the first couple times they show Asgard, it was like a space city, and and then Rich Buckler and all those other guys, they kind of made it like a sci-fi city, but it wasn't really until Walt Simonson took over that made it more fantasy Viking looking. And I think
right. It's funny. It's one of those things where when I saw that, I just saw him recently at a show here where I live, and it was the background that took me back, because I was like, in the comics that we would have gotten early on, before Simonson, I remember seeing the Asgard drawn that way, and it really,
right. He did the same thing with the Inhuman city, the Eternal City, Wakanda. They were all the same city. So I always laugh when people get Wakanda is the most advanced. Except for Olympias, except for Attilan, except for Asgard. Jack Kirby, that was just one of his tropes. The hidden city that's super advanced.
Yeah, I gotta watch that documentary on him. I gotta watch that. I appreciate him more. When we were kids, he was at the tail end of his career.
Right. I say that to people. By the time I got into comics, I throw out the year 1974, and it was Marvel. You were more DC. Right. I mean, you got both, but
I made the switch. I started with Marvel, and then kind of made the switch to DC at some point, oddly enough.
So when I was into, in 1974, 75, Kirby was at DC. So I didn't. So to me, he was old-fashioned comics. To me, comic books was John Romita. It was early George Perez and then John Byrne. And then when Kirby came back with those, the Black Panther and Captain America, I was like, oh God, this is just old man comic books.
Right.
It wasn't until I worked at the Pulp that I started to really like Kirby. When I started to understand comic books rather than I was just a kid who bought them.
Right. It's kind of like when we were kids, Ditko was at,
Oh, I remember, oh my God! He did that annual for the Micronauts. I was like, I gotta buy it because I'm a completionist. But man, do I hate this!
right. And I didn't realize like his legacy, like what what he had done.
Right, and at the same time, I love those early Steve Ditko, Doctor Strange, Hulks, and Spider-Mans. I didn't realize it was the same artist.
Right.
When I saw
Right.
with the Micronauts and the Machine Mans, I was like, oh God, I hate this. I remember he did an issue. He did the Captain Universe,
Right.
almost Spotlight. I was like, oh God, not Ditko.
Right. And it's a shame because like I didn't appreciate them at the time. Sometimes I remember seeing old artists at the conventions, and I would have liked to have gotten something from them, even if it wasn't from their greatest period. It's like they're Hall of Famers, and who
right. I got a Ramona Freitas.
Normal.
I got a Ramona Freitas drew the Justice League for me at a convention, and I put it in a comic. And now it could be in one of 58,000 comics. Someday I'm going to sell like, hey, you want this, kid?
I have a lot of art from her. She was doing art into her 90s, and it looked flawless.
Right, yeah.
Unbelievable. By the way, Cam said he was one of the more normal people to come into the pulp, but yet he's a devil dinosaur guy.
Yeah. I didn't want to argue. My policy of the New Year's is not to fight with people, so Cam's going to get that benefit.
No, I'm just making a joke because I remember Cam being a devil dinosaur.
Yeah, Cam is absolutely right. To me, my first experience with Carmine Infantino is Avengers. I think it's 202. It was an inventory issue where I think it's the Beast and Wonder Man. They're like in Harlem and they find like these germs that become sentient, and and it was the worst. It was like, I hate that particular issue. And then like people like, oh, Carmine Infantino, but it was probably inked by some newcomer, and it was an inventory issue. It was never supposed to make it, and it's just awful. And then I see his old Flash stuff, and it's awful.
Like right. I think he did some Nova too that was pretty bad. And I remember seeing that later on someone else did a Nova cover, that famous cover where Nova's like, and I was like, wow, why can't it look like this? By the way, Cam got a sketch at, I think it was made from Dick Giordano. I think was, am I saying it right? The famous artist. That he was an inker, I think.
Who? Dick Giordano?
Giordano. Yeah, I'm saying it. And he was older at that point, and it wasn't maybe as classic as his stuff would have been in like the 70s and 80s. But I feel like he has a piece of history now it's his style, not as perfect as it would have been if he was 20 and 30 years and 40 years younger. But now that he's gone, it's nice to say like, wow, I have an original. No one else has this drawing by this Hall of Famer. I would love to have like, all the artists I grew up with, something from that, even if it was a thumbnail sketch,
Didn't you get a lot of art by Rich Buckler?
Yes, I have some awesome art by Rich Buckler. I have
you're like the biggest Rich Buckler fan that I know. Everybody's like, yeah, I like Rich Buckler, but you like met him and talked to him, and
it's interesting that he was a fill-in guy for a lot of things, but they knew he could get it in on time. And that was the Dick Giordano that Cam got. It said just about a year before he died. So it's like nice to have that. Yeah. And I felt the same way when Rich Buckler passed, that I wish I had gotten more. But Ken Landgraf was telling me that there wasn't a lot of guys that they wanted to have a continuity with style. And you could drop him in on a book, and he could draw and it wouldn't look like a radical departure from the regular art
you talk about. Yeah, he could adapt his style.
And he did. I liked him so much because one, he did a lot of books that I read growing up, and I like his style. But he did the Mighty Crusaders, and those first 3 issues, I think, looked so awesome. He was on fire with that. But also when he did a couple of sketches for me at conventions that were so good, like he gave me more than I paid for. Like I got the Black Hood, and he put him on a motorcycle, and it looks like a finished piece, and the anatomy and the out is perfect. Like it's just so good, that to get, because when you get something done and the guy's drawn on his lap, you may get something you like. Right. I've also gotten things that I'm like, thank you, and I'm almost crying because it's horrible. I don't like it. I didn't know you met Jack Kirby, Cam.
Yeah, I never met him. Don't shake Cam's hand is what I'm getting out of this story.
Right. Everyone he shakes. Everyone he meets dies a year later. Is that it?
Yeah, Dick Giordano, Jack Kirby. Yeah, don't deal with Cam. Do you remember? I think it was for your 14th birthday. You took me to the Penn Station, the Big Apple Con.
Right.
It was the first time I took the Long Island Railroad, and I was just like, my parents are going to let me go to New York City. It was just me and you, and we went to Big Apple Con. And do you remember we met John Byrne?
Yes.
And Walt Simonson.
Is that the one you had the money out?
Yeah, I was getting annoyed. He was skipping over me. So I went like this, and then he signed and I put my money in my pocket. Right. I was like standing there for like 40 minutes. And he just kept skipping over. I'm freaking 12.
Right. I tell you, looking at his art online is a fortune. Like, to own an original John Byrne, like X-Men page or something.
I've been doing Sunday. I've been doing his X-Men comics, and it's funny because people have seen them for the first time. I take it for granted that everybody knows those. Right? People are like, look at that AA page spread. I'm like, how can you not know this? It's so.
I started off collecting X-Men with the introduction of Alpha Flight.
Okay.
And what's interesting is I remember. It's funny as I can remember as.
So Cam knocked down an old man is what I'm getting out of this.
Wow. Well, that's he has a story. That's like meeting Babe Ruth. If you're
right, I know.
I can remember as a kid. I could only get a few comics. Like I couldn't get as many comics as I wanted because I didn't have any money. I didn't have money, even though they were so cheap, like 35 cents. And I remember skipping over the X-Men for a while because I didn't get it. I had no background. Right?
When I say that to people, you can confirm this. The X-Men weren't popular, and they were hard to find, and they were weird. It really, it wasn't until after the Phoenix saga, when all of a sudden they started to get popular.
Well, I remember finally, I don't know what made me pick it up. I picked up an issue, and I was like, oh, I could have done this 6 months ago. I would have had like 6 classic issues, before the Alpha Flight appearance.
I 119 was the first. Like I started. Well, the first one I got was 114. That was when they're pushing Xavier in the wheelchair, and you see the ghost images.
Right.
That was the first one I ever bought. The first one I ever saw was the issue before that. The kid across the street had. I was like, "Who are the X-Men? Which one of these guys is X-Man?" And I remember thinking Cyclops was X-Man because he had an X on his belt.
Right.
And everybody else, like, who's everybody else? It just made no sense to me. But 119, I found at the newsstand, and then I never missed an issue for like decades. After 119.
It's funny. I just got a flashback to when we first we were first collecting, and then we found out that you had been collecting, and then I started collecting, and how frequently did you count your comics when you were a new comic collector? It's like last week I had 17. This week I have 21. And then because I can remember being with you counting your books.
Right.
You're like, I'm up to 53 or 53 issues.
And also, you also taught me about the numbers. Like I just bought whatever comic book, and you're like, no, if you're collecting them, you got to get them in order. Like I didn't, like
I don't remember.
yeah, like, oh, this is number 119, so that means next month is number 120. I was like, oh, and then I remember getting discouraged because like Spider-Man was up to like 186. Like I'm never gonna get there, and really amazing. Do you remember when the Pulp opened up? They had Amazing Fantasy 15 for $60. Like that was a lot of money, but it wasn't unobtainable.
Right.
I could have saved up $60 to get that.
They had everything there. Like when the Pulp first opened. Oh, genuine.
This is Dave Brink, Genuine Comics, guys. You got to get Perfect 10. It's such a good comic. Anything by Genuine, he's doing great superhero comics. This guy is making the best superhero comic books right now. You know, I love Dave Brink's comics. 35 cents in 1976 is about $2 today. Yeah, they were cheap, but context helps. Yeah, well, this is how I collected comics. I went to St. Christopher's School, and right next to it there was Charlie's, and then it became Ann's, and then it became Fred's, and there was a little stationery store. Like, do they even still have stationery stores? You know, and you bought oak tag, pens, papers,
right,
lotto tickets, cigarettes. You know, and then they would have just a big newsstand, and my mom would give me $1 a day. And I remember a bagel pizza was 25 cents. So I would get 2 bagel pizzas, and then a dime was a chocolate milk. So that was 60 cents. And I had 40 cents left. So I could get a comic book and save a nickel. And then on Friday, I could get 2 comic books until they raised it to 40 cents. So I would get like 5 to 6 comics a week, you know. And back then when you got one, I would go home and I'd read it over and over again, show it to you, and you would read it over and over again.
Right. Yeah, all the books in the beginning, I still remember because I read them so many times, and I think because it made such an impression on me, you know.
Right. Yeah. Now I feel bad. I'm like, I'm 57 years old. I just read Psychic Sam. Am I ever going to get a chance in my lifetime to reread this? Because I got, you know what I mean? Like, my mortality is hampering out my comic book collection.
I remember I once lent my Iron Man books to my friend Tom, and you know, he started reading them. You know, Tom's younger than I am, and he started reading them, and he was really enjoying them. And I was like, you know, I started with Iron Man 116 was the first one, and I remember saying to him like, oh yeah, that's the issue where there's like the 3 Animen, and then, you know, they attack him and he falls to the ground and he has the briefcase, and inside he's got like a gun, and I'm describing panel by panel, and he goes, when did you reread these? I was like, I haven't. The last time I read them was the early 80s, you know, and this is like, you know, in like 2000, you know, like but I'm describing a book that I read in elementary school, and I'm describing it as a, you know, like middle-aged adult, you know, and I can remember everything, you know, like, because it was so new and exciting, it really stuck in my head. Plus, I probably read the issue 5 times.
Or how about Avengers 165? I know me and you could probably recite that comic.
Right. I remember, remember they had the one of them had the side, the Wizard was in it. He runs up to the roof and Nefaria grabs him. And like, I had no idea who that was, like, right, at the time. That who's the old guy? What does it have to do with the rest of the story? But yeah, that's why I think because of the Nefaria issues, Wonder Man became implanted as one of my favorite characters because he was the one who was standing toe to toe, and I thought it was so interesting as a kid that, like, he totally doubted himself. Like, I'm not worthy to shine their shoes, type of thing. Like, he's because he knows what it's like to die. You know, that's what after I'm done with the John Byrne X-Men for Sunday Comics, I want to do Avengers from 150 to 200, which I think is like just as great as that X-Men. Or I mean, it also had George Perez and John Byrne, but that's what made, because a little bit of back to when they announced they were making a Wonder Man TV show. And then it's a black guy playing Wonder Man. I just remember, like, here comes a bunch of people who never heard of Wonder Man. They're going to say, oh, that was my favorite. I'm like, well, I love Wonder Man, you know. Like, and I hate the fact that they're playing up that he's just like an arrogant Hollywood actor.
what made me like Wonder Man is this was the most powerful being on the planet who's afraid of dying, because he thought he was dead, but he just literally laid there and like his body was being transformed into pure energy, and he thinks that's what the afterlife is. So he's like, I don't want to go back to the state of just, time is passing. I'm aware of time passing, but it's just the void. It just sounds like horror, And so here's a guy who's just like, I don't know, should I fight this guy? What if I die again, even though he can't die? I thought that was such a great concept.
They haven't. He had the classic books that he was in when he was in like classic lineup of Avengers, and I feel like they've never known what to do with him since.
Right.
He's had a series of like the people I saw. Cam had showed me a list, and it referenced the infamous costume that he had against Nefaria. I was like, yeah, but that's not as infamous as the one with the 2 tanks on the back.
Right.
That lime green, whatever it was, and with these like he was going scuba diving or something. They've never known what to do with the character, and he was only cool for a short time, and he it was great when the probably like when the first the Avengers annual with the first appearance of Rogue, drawn by Michael Golden.
Yeah.
That was he was in the safari outfit, but good art, great fight. He was still cool.
The red jacket and the red glasses.
Yeah, and then every time they've done like his solo book, like a mini series or something, each one is worse than the next. It's like when they relaunched the Legion of Superheroes. Every relaunch is worse than the previous relaunch.
Oh, the Legion of Superheroes just got a.
I've heard people talk about, I heard they're relaunching it. Maybe they'll get it right this time. The trajectory is only downward. Like there was something magical when they were having their classic run with was it Levitz and Giffen, and before that, who was it? Mike Grell was on it, and Jim Shooter wrote. But every time they relaunch it, because I for a long time I would support it. Like, well, I'll give it a shot. Maybe, each time, just when I think they can't get any worse.
That made him really stand. Yeah. I just like the whole pathos of one of the most powerful beings on earth, just afraid of dying because he spent 10 years dead, whatever. It wasn't really dead, it was transforming, but he thought it was dead. And he had this I love that kind of like Storm, the claustrophobia weakness is one of my favorite weaknesses. It just fits. And then what is the weakness of the most powerful guy on the planet? Fear of dying, because he knows what it's like. I thought that was
as a kid, I remember a friend gave me, it was his brother's comic book. It was an Avengers where they're fighting Doctor Doom, and like Atuma is in it, and Submariner.
Avengers 156
fights Wonder Man. That was like the greatest. And then
that was George Perez in fear of getting fired.
Really? Is it?
Yeah, Mark Wolfman was going to fire him, so George Perez was like, I gotta up it, and they made that picture of the Submariner just flying out, right. and it just said, "Way to go, George Marv." I think that was Marv Wolfman basically saying, we're not going to fire you. You know what I mean? You did it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I remember there was something what Wizard was with him, and he was like, no, it's okay. He knows we're on his side. And Wonder Man's like, I can't take any chances. He's going down now. And I was like, this is the greatest.
And I still giggle that there's a guy named Wizard wearing a yellow outfit. The Wizard.
What was that? He was from in the Invaders, but what was he in
the Liberty Legion?
Liberty Legion, yeah, that was it. That was good times.
Yeah, I'm not sure if kids would buy mainstream comics today, even if they were 35 cents. Yeah. You know what's funny is guys at work, they're like, oh wow, you make comics. And a couple guys will buy comics, and they'll be like. So, this one guy, Mike, I'm like, hey, Mike, I see you bought my comic. What do you think? He goes, I didn't finish it yet. I'm like, how did you not finish it? And it's a comic book.
Nobody reads anymore.
Yeah, the guy was just like, yeah, he said to me, I'm going on a vacation. I got 2 weeks off. I'll have time to finish it. I'm like, you don't need 2 weeks to read my comic.
You need a 2-week vacation to finish a comic book?
Like,
in a bathroom? Yeah, well, I think me and Cam have had discussions where we talked about how that comics themselves are kind of like, one, it is a dated form of entertainment, in that, you have kids who are on social media and online, and they've grown up. They've never known life without the smartphone and stuff like that. And this is, to tell a story, drawing panel by panel on paper pages. They don't have paper anything. They don't read, And the other thing is that their idea of what like a comic book should be, even if they read comics, like they're not into the old-fashioned heroics that I remember enjoying as a kid, like the reruns of the Lone Ranger, the black and white Lone Ranger. I just thought it was the greatest thing ever, and kids would see it as just so corny now. And for me, I remember watching the pilot episode came on. I had never seen it. I had seen a lot of episodes, but then they had his origin, and I was like, this is amazing. This is how he became Lone Ranger. I can only imagine if I try to show that to my son today. Like, he's playing Roblox and he's watching anime. Like, it would seem so corny to him that, like, there's a what I would consider a great story might be
but do you
wrap their brain around.
Do you remember, like, your dad watched Barney Miller?
Right.
He sat on the couch to watch Barney. I challenge anybody to watch Barney Miller today.
Right.
It's one camera, static camera, one set. The actors, it's like.
I remember when my father would watch All in the Family when I was little, and I was like, oh my God, the show with the guy on the chair? Well, hold on. Here comes my son. He wants to be on YouTube. There's Rory. I got to get him to read my comic.
I have such a big beard.
All right, thanks, Rory.
Tell him I'm Alan Moore.
He's Alan Moore. That's a famous person.
He really is?
No, that's my friend John. But like,
the bald guy who has a beard.
It's amazing how tastes change. Like, I remember trying to get my kids to watch Rudolph, and my daughter said she took one look at it, and she was like 7 at the time. She was, this is old fashioned, and I remember thinking, like, wow, like 7, and it's dated for her. I thought any kid would love it.
Could your kids sit through the Charlie Brown Christmas special?
We couldn't we got them to watch one Charlie Brown thing, and I never noticed how odd Charlie Brown is. Like, it is not your typical cartoon, and my kids were like, whatever, the adults are gonna talk here, right? So I need you to but they were kind of mystified by it. Like, it was like peculiar. Frosty, they did watch. We got them to watch one. We got them to watch Frosty. But I always, what's funny? I thought that one day I'd be able to share all my cool stuff that I grew up with my kids, and they would be so impressed. They're not impressed. Like, I thought, like, every comic I have would be considered a treasure.
Right.
Yeah. Guess what? And if the shows that I liked, like, I remember getting the old Flash Gordon serials came out on DVD. And I remember as a kid, they'd be on late at night, sometimes on PBS. And I remember watching them and thinking, like, they were so cool, even though they looked, black and white, and they looked old. And that, oh, look, I have it on DVD. I could show my kids. They're not going to sit through that. I still could get goosebumps watching it. They're like, this is
try to get your kids to watch the original Doctor Who's or the people won't even watch like the Shatner Star Treks anymore.
Right. I remember people saying they preferred like Next Generation to the original. I was like, what's wrong with you? And what's funny with Doctor Who? I remember as a kid seeing that just going by on the channels and seeing that on, and I was like, British TV is lame, because it looks so cheap. Like, to me, I was used to, like, I think that was made, I think, on a lesser budget than, say, Hollywood stuff,
right.
or whatever. It was like watching
community college.
Remember you showed me The Young Ones,
right?
And it was like, I was like, is this a TV show or a play? Like, remember said they were like yelling because it's like done on like it's not done like on a Hollywood sound stage,
right?
I think, and I think for kids like when they see no budget, their imagination doesn't fill in. Well, like they just think, oh, this is lame. I could do better than this on my laptop. Yeah, like
you really. I challenge you to go watch Space 1999.
What was his name? Landau?
Yeah, Martin Landau.
Who was on Space 1999? Martin Landau.
Martin Landau, and I can't remember his wife, the Plank.
He didn't.
She had the range of your bookshelf. She was terrible.
What's that?
His wife. He insisted that his wife play the doctor. It's like, oh, great. A homely woman with no range is supposed to be the love interest.
That's funny. And he did not.
I liked him, but geez.
He didn't strike me as like an action star.
Right.
Like like Kirk was all about like kicking ass and taking names,
Well, he was like the anti-Kirk. He was more intellectual and everything, but I didn't know Space 1999 was a BBC production.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I was like, why is this look? Because I started watching it when I was out of work when I broke my neck. So I was just watching. I'm like, this, after the first, I'm like that explains it. It's BBC. And I remember arguing with my cousins. They're like, yeah, Star Trek is ridiculous. It's not even science fiction. It's just nonsense. And then they're like, Space 1999 is real science. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe that's why it's dull, because it's like real. And I watched it. It is the most ridiculous science fiction ever. The moon accelerates and changes, goes faster than light, less. You know what I mean? It's garbage science fiction.
Yeah, I remember it like as a kid thinking it was looked like Yawn City.
Yeah.
What's funny? You know what I saw recently? There's a channel called Tubi that shows old movies.
Yep.
And there was a movie, I think might be from 1980, called Galaxy of Terror.
Yeah.
And
with Erin Moran.
She was in it. Hi, Rory. Do me a favor, Rory. Could you go on your iPad? Thank you. And I remember seeing that as a kid and not realizing it was like real low budget and like not successful. But I remember
and a lot of nudity. If you watch it on like shocking nudity, I was like, oh my God.
It was a bizarre movie. And there's like one of the was it her where tentacles wrap around her and they squeeze till she bursts?
Yeah.
Like that. That stuck with me for 40 something years. I don't know, like if
I don't know if you watched the uncut version, but I was like, I remember this movie from a kid, but I didn't remember and then the whole last movie, like you remember that like the fat scientist is like fighting like an amoeba and everything.
Right.
It's really
and then
it's great.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I always think does anyone else remember like it stood out to me, this forgettable movie, because like cable was new for us, that might be Roger Corman because it looks.
Well, cable had like they would buy movies and just play them into the ground, so we watched them a million times.
Yeah,
Like I remember on cable, the horror movie Pieces was always on, and I must have seen it a million times. So again, when I was out of work, I was like, I'm watching all of these old movies, and I watched Pieces. I'm like, I can't believe I like this.
Oh, it's funny. It's the stuff that it says the director for Galaxy of Terror was Bruce D. Clark. I don't think he went on to anything that I know of. But it reminds me, there was a horror movie that I recommended it to Cam once called The Unseen. That came out also like 1981 or whatever, about what's in the basement. And I remember I hadn't really seen horror movies. And this was like the miracle of cable, where I remember this movie that I guess is horror fans would think of it as a footnote that they don't remember. But for me, I'm thinking, like, every time someone mentions the horror genre, I think of this forgettable movie because it made an impression on me. And Rory, please. And it had frontal nudity. Briefly, woman getting into a bath, and I thought this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I don't know if I was in 7th or 8th.
Guys, it was like that back then. It wasn't like you kids today with your cell phones. You could just look up and see whatever you want, literally. Back then, it was just like.
By the way, that scares me now that I have kids. That in your pocket, is access to stuff that you don't want any human to have access to, let alone children.
It's funny that you said that because I was just talking with one of my friends. I don't want to give away, but he's got kids, so I was giving him because I want to do a story like the Patriarch to talk about my comic. Something bad happened. We're gonna talk about that in issue 2 of the Patriarch. Why do they live on the farm? Why is the wife scarred? We're gonna talk about that in issue 2 of the Patriarch. So they live off the grid. And the kids are going to be like, Dad, we want computers, like whenever they go. So, like, what does he do? Like, does he allow the kids to have computers? Like, because you got kids and you're scared. Now, just imagine if you have supervillains looking for you.
Right.
So I wanted to talk to people because I don't have kids. Like, what would you do in that situation? It was a pretty good conversation. Yeah, rarer is better. It's more appreciated. I was going to say something about that movie, that Erin Moran movie, Galaxy of Terror.
Galaxy of Terror.
That's her only movie, and she took it seriously. Like, lo and behold, it was like a low budget horror movie with like.
The funny thing is when they list the people in it, like I didn't even realize. I watched it again recently, and not the whole thing because I fast forwarded a few, but she's not even a main character really.
No.
But yet I guess because of Happy Days, she was on the, she was listed as like one of the stars. And I watched, and the funny thing is that I don't know if there's anyone in that movie who ever went on to anything.
Well, the blonde was the girlfriend in Spinal Tap.
What was that?
The blonde in Galaxy of Terror is the girlfriend in Spinal Tap. She plays the.
Oh, okay. That's
Nigel St. Hubbard's girlfriend. I wanted to talk about this. Do you remember in the 80s, all of the fantasy movies, Beastmaker and Crawl and Dragon Slayer, because Conan came out. That was such a big hit.
Oh, that inspired.
Yeah, there was so many sword and sorcery movies.
Crawl was one of those movies that was on the back of comics forever, wasn't it?
Yep.
That the advertise, like I remember that, and I remember the ad for the Orca movie.
Orca was everywhere.
There's a whole bunch of my comics that have the Orca and that have the Crow. I don't know if I've ever seen either one of those. I think I saw Dragon Slayer.
Another ad on the back of comics, it seemed like forever, was the King Kong when he's on the Twin Towers.
Yes, yeah. That's, by the way, Megaforce. I don't know if you've ever seen Megaforce.
Yep.
I remember years later seeing like Siskel and Ebert did like a review of it, and it said Barry Bostwick horribly miscast as an action star, as the leader of. I saw Megaforce in the theater. I don't like to brag. I'm one of 8 people that saw that in the theater. Really bad. When I think of Megaforce, I also think of the movie. I don't remember Kill or Be Killed. and Kill and Kill Again.
Oh yeah,
low budget martial art movies.
I think I saw this with you, but wow. Now I can't remember it. But it was a martial arts movie, The Champions or something like that.
Oh, The Instructor.
No, I was going to bring that up later, but The Instructor, that's a whole. We could talk about that all night long. The worst movie ever made.
Do you know? I saw an interview with the guy who directed The Instructor, and the funny thing is, he's very down to earth. He turned out he was a Vietnam vet, and stuff. He said that movie was actually profitable because it was super low budget, but it came out when the mom and pops video stores were exploding, and everyone was desperate for.
You had to fill the shelves.
They sold it in like 36 countries or something like that, like 40 countries. Like this low budget, like it less than like a student film, like, and he said that it turned a large profit.
I remember my favorite line from The Instructor is just like, so how long have you been? I forget what he's asking him, but he's like, well, how long did you think that? He goes, oh, about since your wife was raped and murdered.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good reference. Yeah.
He goes, because I want to be an instructor just like you, sir. And he goes, really? When did you decide this? Oh, about the same time your wife was raped and murdered.
Oh,
you showed a certain quiet restraint, he said.
Yeah. What do you say? Thank you to that? Oh.
What's that?
Like, what do you say to that? Oh, thank you. I'm glad I
inspire you. He said you showed a certain quiet restraint, and he says, quiet restraint? What do you mean? He goes, everybody knows Bud Hart raped and killed your wife. Everybody. And like the fact that he didn't go after Bud Hart and be a vigilante, and take the law into his own hands. But it was almost like, wait a minute, you know who killed your wife and you're not doing anything about it?
Aren't you the police? And I like their jogging.
Yeah.
And then the other guy just turns around and he goes, oh, going backwards, huh?
I forgot about going backwards, huh?
and then I remember you the first time we watched it. You had seen it before, and you're like, John, get ready for the greatest car chase of all time. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good, And it was like,
remember at one point in the car chase, the bad guy goes down a dead end, and the good guy's behind him, and he backs up and lets him out.
Right.
Good times.
They're looking at me.
Mike scarred me forever by making it.
Yeah, I've made everybody watch The Instructor, and I know Cam is a better person for having seen it.
Yeah, I implore everybody, go watch The Instructor. It's like one of those. There's like two movies that like I think Mike, you and I did like the science fiction. What's it called? Science fiction theater. I always forget the name of that show where the guys make fun of the.
Oh, was it Science Fiction 3000 or what was that? Cam would know.
But we did that to The Instructor for years before we even knew about that show. I think everybody did. Like every group had a movie that they just made fun of.
With The Instructor, I once made, back when you used to make mixtapes.
Yeah. And
my friend Chris, he was going to the University of Chicago, and I sent him a mixtape of songs. We were always sharing songs. Oh, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Thanks, Cam. And I sent him a mixtape, and in between each song, or every couple of songs, I had snippets from The Instructor that I just held up to the cassette. I held another tape recorder and played it. And there's a line I remember because I had "You Shook Me All Night Long" on there at the end. And I had the line. There's a line in the movie where he says, "He goes, must be." He said he must be pissed about me slapping Rhodes, and Rhodes was his Rhodes was the protege of the instructor, and the other instructor said he must be mad at me for slapping him. He goes, "Let's see how fast you can drive now, mother." And then it goes into you should be all night long. And for the longest time, my friend's roommate thought he was saying, "Must be pissed about me slapping rugs." Never, and he says, so the movie gained a following to people I don't even know. Hopefully they in turn showed it to other people. The sound quality was awful.
Yeah, so Omni Pro says we didn't go to school together, believe it or not. So Mike and I we were born in Baldwin, and Mike had a big family. I had a big family, but when I was born, Mike knows the house because when I moved out, one of your friends moved in. But my house was so tiny. I'm not joking. I slept in a drawer because we didn't even have room for like a cradle. So we bought a bigger house. So because of that, Mike and I never went to the same school together, even though we were already friends. I went to Oceanside schools and Mike went to Baldwin schools. So, we hung out, and his father, our parents went to the same church together. So we all like we would go camping and stuff like that together,
Yeah, no, do you remember our first trip up to North Lake?
Yeah.
We walked up talking comics like the whole way and movies. And I remember you said, was it Ernie Sack Newsom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Journey to the Center of the Earth?
Arnie Sack Newsom.
Arnie Sack Newsom.
But that trip was when you got me to read DC.
Oh, really?
Because I brought a stack of comics and you brought a stack of comics. And of course, your comics I didn't read and my comics you didn't read. So I remember you were reading my stuff and you had the Great Darkness saga.
Oh, yeah. That's a great introduction to DC.
Right. So I just remember, but even though I didn't know who Darkseid was, I didn't understand Jack Kirby made this character and then this is supposed to be, he died at the end of the Fourth World story. They never finished it, but they kept talking about he's gone, and then the Legion of Superheroes is 1,000 years later, and nobody touched Darkseid out of respect for Kirby until then. Now Darkseid's in every third issue.
Right.
And Darkseid was just we don't touch this.
Kirby. The great Darkness saga. John wrote the short bus to school. I read the end of the Great Darkness saga, the double issue, not having.
Right, I think so too.
I had to go back and read them later, because I remember seeing the annual or the double-sided issue, whatever, and just thinking it looked so cool, and all these characters and so I read the ending of this grand saga, and it didn't ruin it for me. I was weird in that to me, I'm just okay, I'm going with it.
My first issue of the X-Men was them in the Savage Land without costumes on, using their real names, and and it was worth it.
About how it's hard to hop on, they have to start over because it's hard to hop on. And I guess for the general public, that's true. For me, if I just know, okay, wait, who's good and who's bad, I just accept it and just run with it. I don't need, I wouldn't be afraid of jumping in on issue 499.
Right. Well, that's what we did. I saw a meme that they were modern day comics are so inaccessible. That's why anime is kicking ass today, because you could start with. Meanwhile, your first issue was part 47 of some X-Men crossover, and you loved it.
Right.
It's so true.
Yeah, I never had any problem trying to just mentally filling in the blanks, and then maybe in the age of back issues, going back and filling in the blanks
right. I when people ask me what's your favorite comic of all time, I always say Avengers 165, and that was the middle issue of a 3-issue story.
Right.
I never had the first issue for years, and
right.
And you had 166, and I think I read it 2 years later.
Right, right.
But that was still the greatest comic, and I didn't know how it started. And the last panel is literally Thor throwing a hammer at Count Nefaria. It's like the greatest cliffhanger ever. And I read it over and over and over. Just imagine watching Empire the Strikes Back, and that's it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And but that's But it was.
I remember it opens up the issue where Nefaria is kind of backhanding Captain America and Black Panther at the same time,
And Beast. It's like unceremoniously all three of them are taken out.
I was already. And the funny thing is, I think when I went back years later, I got the one before it, where he, the three characters and he steals their powers, basically.
Right. Power Man.
And I remember being like, it's a good issue, but I remember almost like I didn't need it. Like it was almost, I almost liked. I don't know how they ended up here, but it's on.
Right.
And that was.
I remember reading because I didn't know who Jarvis was, and then Jarvis shows up. And he goes down into the basement and he wakes up the Vision, and I didn't know who the Vision was, and I was just like, "Who's this?" I'm thinking Jarvis is a sinister mad scientist. I didn't realize he was a butler.
Right.
And he's because he's pulling levers and waking up, and I thought like the Vision was like a captured villain. You know what I mean? He's this red faced, and I hope he helps us. Like
it's a very creative ending. With him making himself like Diamond Hard, and then going up to almost the.
That was the next issue. Yeah.
It's funny. My big regret is I saw Jim Shooter at one of the conventions we went to, and I didn't stop I should have told him how important his Nefaria story was for me as a collector, and how because that was really almost before I started fully collecting, and that I got that at a sleepover.
Right.
And then my friend said, "Oh, you can keep it," because he wasn't really he got him when the 7-Eleven near us closed.
Right. Back then, everybody got comics, but not everybody was like if you went to your friend's house, there was comics.
Right.
And a lot of times they're like, "Oh, you like him? Here."
Yeah, you can keep them.
Rather than throw them away, give them to John. It's the same as throwing them away. Get rid of this stuff,
I regret not telling, because I had the chance when we were at MegaCon. I ran into what's his name? Wrote the All-Star Squadron.
Roy Thomas.
He was at a table collecting for the like the retired artist fund, whatever that was, the guys who were down on their luck. And I got to tell him about how in 1977 we were taking a family trip cross country. We went to Colorado at the convention center it wasn't a comic book convention. My parents were like, it was a family encounter. It was like kind of like marriage encounter. Like it was like a Christian kind of thing. And in the lobby of our hotel, they had a little convenience store, and my mother let us each pick out a comic book. And I thought I was so clever because I picked out an annual, which was, twice the size. And that was John Carter, Warlord of Mars 1. And my brother Kevin picked out an Invaders comic book that had, I think it had a reprint of a Golden Age Submariner in the back. It was part story, part. And I didn't know it at the time. But Roy Thomas had written both of them. And I was able to tell him, when I was 10, I thought the stories were just written by Marvel. Like I didn't know that was you. And I said, and then I realized everything I collected, like half the stuff I collected throughout my childhood was him.
Right.
And I didn't know, I had no idea. Like I was never, as a kid, I never knew when I was young that like this run might be good because of this writer, but it might not be as good.
Right. Yeah.
Because I just thought they were all just from Marvel or just.
Yeah, I collected the Avengers. I didn't know, every once in a while I noticed that the art was different, but I never. That's what I said. I hated Ditko, but I didn't realize Ditko was the same guy that did all those Spider-Mans and Doctor Strange that I love. Right. It was just Marvel. So I remember looking at artist Ditko. I'm like, what is Ditko? Is Ditko like a computer? Like I literally thought Ditko was like a computer program or something. Like that's not a real name, But
it's funny, the issues that you didn't like of when we spoke to Roy Thomas when he was at the table for the collecting for the fund, the artist fund, we were fortunate because we just went up and talked. There was no one there, and he just talked to us at length. He was the nicest man. And later on, I saw him as kind of like a guest of honor, where he was like kind of a big deal. This some years later, and the line to talk, to get him to sign something was gigantic. So we went up to him and we were able to talk to him as if we had just run into him on the street or the diner or something like that. And by the way, super nice guy. And I told him that I had gotten a drawing from Rich Buckler. Did the one of the ones he did was the Jaguar, and he did it awesome. And Roy Thomas said, he goes, and I bet you got, because if I know Rich, I bet you got the greatest Jaguar drawing anybody's ever done. I said, I did. He kind of drew the Jaguar like a little Submariner, like a little bit, and kind of like who's it? Like Gil Kane used to kind of draw the fingers, kind of when someone put like it was really detailed, and like he doesn't phone it in. And it's funny, like I remember Ken Landgraf talking about him, and he said like that guy can do anything. Like, so it was just kind of interesting to see that, when we got to talk to him, like you could tell like the wisdom of and knowledge of comics was all contained within. It's like someone should interview him at length and preserve what he knows about.
Yeah, I tried to get him on my channel. We emailed back and forth, and then I don't know what happened. I'd love to talk to him. I mean, you knew I had Jim Shooter on, right?
Right.
I got to talk to him about I got to talk to him about the Great Darkness saga,
right?
And Avengers 165. I told him basically our stories of how that was like a year of our life reenacting those comics, and then I finally got to ask him about why was there this comic could be $2,500 to you on X-Men 135. The Death of Phoenix.
Right, yeah.
We talked to. I was like, oh man, like
you have a classic. Yeah, and then the stupid,
yeah, he was laughing about that. Yeah, he was so, and it just makes me sad because he's like, okay, I'll come back on and we'll talk about After Marvel, and then he passed.
Right. No, that was sad. And it's funny. I'm kicking myself for not stopping to talk to him because I don't. You always heard things about like he was an intense guy when he worked there, and he's the one who kept. The way we heard it was like he kept the artists in line because they were all hippies and they weren't going to stay on a schedule, and he was the one who had to keep them. But he seemed very approachable when I saw him on your show. Like he seemed like he seemed like he was enjoying himself. Talking to you. He was like easygoing and
yeah. It was nice because all I had to do was like say like a couple of words, and he liked to talk.
Right.
It was easy, and I didn't know a lot of stuff. Like other people, like after because Jim was all nice, he didn't want to really say anything mean, but other people were filling me in the details about how Marvel sued him when he opened up like Valiant Comics, and what was the other one? Warriors of Plasm.
Warriors of Plasm, which was a running joke that we had. Warriors of Spooge.
Yeah, like Marvel, like screwed them.
I didn't know that. I didn't know they were.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that lore. And I remember at the time, I guess I was a stupid kid, but like when Jim Shooter finally got fired, I was like, it's time to go because I just remember Secret Wars 2.
Right.
It was like so bad.
Well, the funny thing is, everyone has their run. It's kind of like, all the great performers, like they never quite matched to this day that that you never quite capture.
Right.
You like Paul McCartney did good stuff after the Beatles, but he never topped his his classic run. Same with every other musician I can think of. Like their later stuff, you might enjoy it because it sounds like them and it kind of has their touch on it, but they never capture what they did in their run. And I guess everyone stays on too long, you know.
Yeah, I always say that, like, the more I look back at the Jim Shooter years, was the high point of Marvel, like even including the Jack and Stan years. You know, Jack and Stan built the foundation, and then the Jim Shooter years, just like they built like a skyscraper on that foundation. You know, and I remember not liking the Tom DeFalco run, but Tom DeFalco was on my channel, so I reread all of his Fantastic Fours, and I'm like, this was excellent too. Like, how spoiled was I that I didn't like the DeFalco comics because I'm comparing them to the Burns and you know, in the earlier run, you know what I mean? And now it's like I'm in the middle of the Dan Slott run. I'm just reading it, and I'm like, oh, geez, ooh, the DeFalco is like Shakespeare compared to
right. That's interesting. It's funny though, like you know, the same guy who did some of our favorite issues also did Warriors of Plasm. And I remember thinking, like, who put money into that? Because that didn't look like it was ever going to sell. But it was not, and it was not a compelling, you know, just the premise and the look. I remember looking at it like,
just the title. The title made me not want to get it. Warriors of Plasma.
What is this for? Yeah. You know, I think it's for people who like Galaxy of Terror. That's what I think.
I remember getting excited and then having my excitement dashed with the new universe. And I know there's a few people, maybe they're watching, who are going to get mad at me for saying this, but like the new universe was mostly bad. Like, remember, like Spitfire, you know, Kickers Incorporated, superpowered football players. It was almost like, oh, your kid's dying over there. It sounds like. I remember when I met John Romita Sr., I went to his house and he was talking. He said Jim Shooter wanted to make his mark, and you know, he wanted to create something, you know, to rival Jack and Stan. He goes, but he did a stupid thing. He just said, everybody make up comics. So people just like, superpower football player, you know, blah, blah. Like he didn't find that people with like a burning, this is what I want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he was just like, oh, quick, 10 people. I need 10 comics. How about this? Okay, make it. Okay, make it. Okay, make it. Like DP7, I remember being good. And Starbrand turned good later. But like for the most of it, it was Cyforce was all right. But the rest of it, I don't know. Sleepwalker was all right. Or was that even New Universe with Sleepwalker? I don't know.
Yeah, I remember, like, I don't think I read one of them. I don't think I read any of the New Universe.
Oh, yeah?
I don't think, I think at the time I looked at it as, I don't know what this is supposed to be. You know?
I just remember looking at it as like, oh, great. Now I got to get more comics. Like, that's how I thought. I got to get more. Like, I had no choice. I was getting like everything Marvel and everything DC printed. Like I look back at how crazy that would be, you know?
Right.
Can you imagine everything Marvel and DC put out these days? You'd go bankrupt.
You and Larry were
we were
everything. You know, like as if to have like the complete, like the comics of that generation are preserved in your collection forever.
Well, Larry was even worse than me. He got a copy of every comic.
Right.
Larry was the one who owned the comic book store, so he literally got one of every comic. You know, and never read them. I never seen Larry.
He read like his core of like the more indie type,
like the Jam and Bean World,
Fantagraphics, and what was it, like Love and Rockets. He liked Joe Matt.
Yeah,
I heard Joe Matt died. You hear that?
Yeah, Joe Matt died a couple of years ago. I did an episode of Peep Show in memoir. I ended up liking that stuff. You know, it's funny because now I have a low tolerance for but for a while I was just like, it could be gross. I don't care. And now I'm like, it's gross. I don't want to read it.
I just found him like so neurotic that it made me feel uneasy. Like I felt after Rory, I've like after it was like if you read anything, I'd be in the comic book store all day, and I would probably at some point I'd have to look at it because either Larry would show it to me or I would just be curious of what that lunatic is up to, and then after I would read it, I'd feel queasy.
Yeah, you read Joe Matt's Peep Show, and you're just like, I'm not a bad person.
Right. I guess I'm not. I'm more normal than I ever gave myself.
I thought I had problems. All right, so I still live with my parents, but geez, at least I'm not saving my pee in a jar.
By the way, I have to get my son to bed, so I'm gonna have to sign off.
He's going crazy.
But
tell him Alan Moore is going to cast a spell on him.
Right, but I wanted to thank you for having me on. I hope
before you go, we'll bring up your comic one more time.
Dun, dun, dun.
So just remember, everybody. What am I doing wrong? I'm booming right here. I'm becoming a boomer. We'll make this big, and we'll bring it all the way to the top. Oh, nobody needs to see my credit card information. Oh, come on. There we go. So,
yeah, like I said, there's 6 comics. You can buy one. You can buy 2. You can buy them all. You can also get the digital, or you could get them in print. So it's there's inexpensive options available. You can also get if you haven't gotten Marshall Strong 1 and 2, they're available as add-ons under the add any back issue, and it's a fun issue. I feel like it's kind of hitting its stride with this issue. The story's kind of opening up.
And there's 6 issues in total, right?
Right. I have 6 issues completely finished. So no one has to worry that it will be unresolved or what me and Cam used to talk about when we would go to conventions, when we go to like MegaCon in Florida, and they'd have the indie comic guys, indie publishers, and frequently they would have an issue, and I'd take a chance on it. It might, I like to read indie books, and then you go back next year and they're back, and they have the same book they got last year, but they don't have a new book. And this would happen 3 and 4 years in a row. They would either disappear, or if they were there for 3 or 4 years in a row, they'd have issue number 1. And never, and they would do the convention every year, but they would never have anything new. And we always found it so frustrating, because you never got to, you just, even if it was just once a year getting their book. But like I said, 6 issues are done. I think it's a fun story. I think the personalities have more of a chance to come out. Magnum and Marshall, especially. And I think people like it. The art is great. I'm a big fan of Elton Tomasi's art, and it was a lot of fun doing it. And I hope people enjoy it. People who want to take a chance on it, pick it up. If you like, I'm a product of my time. I think that era of comic books we're talking about, I tried to capture as best I can in my book.
If you're watching this, you watch my channel, so I mean, it's set in the same universe. You're going to see some of these characters, and it might as well be me. You know what I mean? I was the game master who came up with these stories. Mike's drawing them as a comic book with changes because neither one of us can remember all the details. Right. And then I don't want to get Dan mad, but you think after issue 6 we'll bring them back in Longbox Comics? You think that's something that we can do?
Oh, I have the 6 issues done. As far as after 6, I have no idea. Like kind of like yourself, like as you know, like I'm fortunate that I created these at a time when I was. I started when I was like single, no kids when I first started these doing these, and you realize like when it was much easier for me to pay an artist and to pay a colorist, etc. And but yeah, but that would be fun to work together again.
I'm talking about like reprinting.
Oh, reprinting it. Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I mean,
and then like, if there are any continuity errors, maybe fixing up some continuity errors. And
I've always I thought about it'd be cool. When they do collections of books, sometimes they add bonus story to give you a reason to buy the trade paperback or whatever. Because I have some stuff that now that I've done the 6 issues that I thought that would be cool to go back and include that I wasn't able to. So
I showed you this, right?
Yes, yeah. I love the detail on that he's doing on this.
Yes. So this is like all our characters. It's going to be in giant size. It's going to Punchline Bill Williams' comic. So he Punchline. This is giant size Punchline number 1, and he has 5 creative teams doing 5 stories, and so there's going to be 5 variant covers. So this is my variant cover. Bill Willingham has a story. Unfortunately, he's not doing the art. I was like, I wanted to be in a comic book where Bill Willingham drew something. He's one of my favorite.
He's been more of a writer for a long time.
Right.
So, he did the art in those early role-playing game books we have. Like,
right.
Boot Hill and stuff that we talked about earlier. He does a lot of the art in there. Bill Williams gave me 12 pages. So I was like, I got to put all of our role-playing characters in one team, in one comp. And this will have a campaign on Kickstarter, I think in April, and then it will be in comic book stores over the summer. Oh, that's cool. I'll have to.
So when I did this, Renzo was just like, "Can I make it look like an old Justice League cover with the roll call?" I was like, "Absolutely." Bill's
great art, wonderful cover.
Yeah, I love this. I love the roll call, Colonel.
And the detail that he does on the Cthulhu character is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's his character Mel in the Viking outfit. It'll make sense if you read it. There's Magnum over there. But I also like, since we're gonna do it like an old Justice League style, I wanted to put words on the cover. So I love this. Patriarch's like, we can't beat that monster without killing Mel. And then Magnum says, that's not our problem. And if you know Paul, that's the way he is. Like, and then Mel goes, you're welcome to try, So
no, that's great. I love when the throwback, stuff that, like I miss the days of covers with dialogue,
Yeah, that's like I pretty much tell Renzo, do whatever you want. You drew it all, so you do the cover. And my only rule is I want the covers to be representative of what happens, like it used to be. Like, I don't want just like a portfolio piece or a picture of Catwoman looking sexy, even though she's not in the comic.
I wonder why they stopped doing that. Like, why was it? Because it was just easier to have cover artwork done and slap it on a book?
Probably.
Because a lot of times, like the cover not only was an indication of what was inside, but the cover communicated so much.
Right. And it got me to want to buy it,
Right. The you could get a sense of different elements of the story just from one cover and dialogue. Like I think about, like, I remember we were looking at different covers, and the classic Unknown Soldier covers with done by what was his name? Who did the Unknown Soldier? He did Sergeant Rock.
Kubert or Kane?
Kubert.
Yeah, Kubert.
Joe Kubert, right? And it's like they're so perfect, and all of them relate. Each cover almost like tells a story in itself. And I miss that. I miss that the cover is related to the story, and that you get a sense of elements of the story just from the cover alone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this might as well be a page. Yeah, and it's funny because Jimmy's character never had a superhero name, so I called him the Metaphysician, and the Metaphysician is one of your favorite villains,
and one of my victims,
right?
Because I killed him right by accident.
Yeah, but that was a fun adventure. So anyway, this was fun talking. It's almost 3 hours.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, well, we just.
I hope guys, please consider backing Marshall Strong. There's going to be 6 issues, like he said, they're already made. So you're not, it's just he's waiting for Dan to put together another campaign, and then number 4 will be out.
And then, by the way, if you get a chance, I should put you in touch with Ken Landgraf because he has so many stories about those creators at Marvel.
Oh yes, send
yeah.
I've been really remiss in getting pros.
That. It's,
yep.
Valkyrie. And what did he do for me recently? This Johnny Thunder there with so it was just great, and such every time I talk to him, he has a there's no one in the business he hadn't of the names that he hadn't met or got to know about. He also did this. This is a weird one. 2 World War II characters with Rick Flag.
Is that Johnny Quick?
This is a character called This one over here is called Mr. Justice, and this is Steel Sterling.
Okay.
And that's Rick Flag of the Suicide Squad.
Oh, did you ask those? He just threw that for you?
He happened to have that there. And the funny thing is, when I was picking up the art that I bought to leave, this stuck to the bottom, and I accidentally stole it. So I emailed him, and I said, I opened my bag, and I was like, was this a gift? Did I steal this? It's like I stole it, and so then he actually said, he gave it to me at a discount, so I sent him, the PayPal, but I remember thinking boy, we were talking for like an hour. I hope he doesn't feel I was talking just to set him up so I could.
Oh God!
But now I'm glad I accidentally stole it, and like I said, I did pay him afterwards. But because now I'm attached to it, because it has an origin story,
That's funny.
So all right, better get running. Thanks again for promoting my book and having me on, and
check it out.
Look forward to watching more of your show.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Take care.
Bye. So, here you go, Mike. You've seen this, right?
What's that?
Bye, kids.
Goodbye, kids.
Bye, kids.
That terrified a generation. That was the last of Howdy Doody when Clarabelle finally spoke. Kids screamed, ran, hit the back.
And we used that when we played V&V. Every time, you say, roll a saving throw. If you don't roll under, you got to roll under 9, or you take a direct hit and you roll. And you're like, what'd you get? Bye, kid.
And whenever you thought you were going to die, bye.
We had a lot of laughs with that.
But goodbye. See you guys.
All right. Take care. So long, Cam.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Bye,
so go to bed.